Zenith's move. Come around as 3 in a line, take them out, and then turn and run back together. It was a beautiful movement by them. Bummer for Elusive. They, again, another team that's felt like they have been chased nonstop since that opening engagement that started so well for them on Milta Beach, but the shifts have not been friendly, and those original Milta teams that we saw have been just sort of chasing and playing catch-up. And to what you said earlier, that's the danger of getting stuck on the edge, Cameron, is you constantly are just sort of bleeding people out. Let's go to our spot. Wildcard getting pushed by Illusion. Pentalal's got the uphill, but he can't do much about this. Jazza up even higher. But that's what we talked about. The danger of those crates is that people can look at you from above, they can crash you if they want to, and they can cut you to shreds.
Yeah, I like that Illusion were able to take that position from Wildcard, pick up a couple of kills. Illusion, despite their issues with macro play, have looked really strong when it comes to being able to force a 4v4 team fight, and that's what happened here. But unfortunately, you can see Zenith's angle showing that weakness yet again of that position. So many smokes Illusion are having to deploy, and Zenith are still trying to find all of these angles. And it's good that Zenith are being proactive in this nature, in this way, because this position is going to get really weak once the circle closes up. So they want to pick up these points now.
Yeah, and I think Illusion is in a tough spot. They've got to try to push the Zenith of this hill, and there's not a lot of options besides maybe a quick rotation and just hoping you survive the Dossier rock. One goes down, the second taking intense fire. Will he make it up? He won't. Free Me Please is set loose and will be released from the game. Talk Dog, I believe, the last remaining member for Illusion, and Zenith does seem to be on the hunt.
Not just Zenith, Oath have also been a part of this fight as well, I believe, taking the first kill of that Illusion rotation. But I think Kickstart might have spotted the head. He definitely spots the bullets coming in, that's for sure. But have to back off because I think the Oath angle is a little too strong and they don't want to force this just for one more point.
All right, let's keep an eye on Zenith as they keep playing out. Remember, they're in 3rd place at the start of the day today, but they have been on the rise. They're taking harassment from Oath, a team that I expected to be in 3rd place today and has very much let me down as they try to put some points on the board. The circle, Cameron, boomerangs hard back down towards the south. What does that mean for these teams?
It means that Exodus and Hardships are in really good position. And Oath, I like how they're pushing out to try and get these kills onto Zenith, but the timing might not have worked out for them because of that shift. They get the first one onto Roth. Are they going to keep on to it? Are they going to continue this and then just try and deathball from the north? Or are they going to back off and try and do a vehicle rotation?
As far as Oath goes, I got the feeling from watching their previous games that they seem to be trying to play very aggressive this weekend. Their placement's been weak, but their kill counts are decent. So I think that they are looking to get into these fights and make them happen. Zenith, on the other hand, I think has been very smart about how they've picked their fights so far not this week, but this series. I'm not used to having a 5-day break. Radiance on the uphill spots Leda and are going to kill him now as Kickstart tries to get a little bit of an advantage for the team. Opens fire, gets the knock, but the nades are flying. Gets another one to toss out, try to get the flush on Batty Lawless as he leans left, right, pops a shot, down to 1, but he lives. And now he's going to smoke off and try to get his health back up and running. Only Mystery still in fighting condition. Slides forward and decides to go for the stick on Leda. It may work out because Radiance seems to not be over-aggressively pushing this. They're just holding and liberates behind them.
Zenith need to land their shots right now because of this blue. Radiance are just waiting for Zenith to run into them. The blue takes down Leda, so maybe that's a point that doesn't go Radiance's way. Mystery's not going to be alive for long. I mean, Kickstart got to a rock. That's at least something for now, but no, Zenith, they're out of this. They're not going to survive for much longer.
Yeah, I think they'll go ahead and stick it in the smoke, let themselves go down instead of giving away points. Radiance should be pretty aware of that at this point. That said, I do believe that once they see 1 or 2 of those sacrifices, they may look away from the last member. Nope, that's it. Zenith is done. So that'll be the end of them.
Counting the kill feed. But now they have to push through Liberate, as you mentioned.
And now Liberate has been waiting. They heard the fight going off when Radiance engaged. So now Radiance walking forward, barrel loaded up on top of Waldo. Waldo, or as Waldini, as Godspeed likes to call him, moving forward, wants to play aggressive. This man was a game changer on the Rumblers. Can he have his moment here on Radiance? Well, he got his moment, but it's not the one he wanted. Here comes the push on the other side. Los going in, trying to get inside the house. Adit is outside. Shoot to kill eliminated in the meantime. We'll check in on that later. That's a surprise to see them go out in 10th place as Adit holds the corner. McCoy trying to gather information, does get a little bit of info on where Adit is, as Adit and Lush, the last two members of Liberate, up against Loch D. Los HD.
I mean, I like the double peek from Adit. Fortunately, Guab does go down in the meantime. And the Sonics, ooh, look at, they're rushing in. They know that they have a couple of injured, just limping gazelles right above them. One, but Profi with the double peek, a very good spray down. That leaves just Adit alone for Liberate and Los HD inside of the hut. And both know that if they step out of that, it's going to be death from the Sonics.
And that is, I think, pretty much the way that the situation is here. Adit's trying to go around the outside. Nice job sliding around the blue, going to heal himself up. And hopefully, he hopes maybe Los will take the brunt of the Sonics' fury, and Adit can slip in from behind and use it for cover. I'm not sure how either of these two get themselves out of this situation, Cameron.
That's actually the best call, I think, for Adit. Los HD is in definitely the worst position because they know the door that he's going to leave from. Adit at least has a little bit of open area to move around in.
Liberate is eliminated. We didn't get to see it, but Profi did get the pick off. Adit decided to get up and get out of it, and it did not work out. Voxic also trying to make a go. He is going to go down as Exodus has one side and Oath the other. But D-Rich freshly engaged and looking to get some kills here. Looking uphill. Wants to make some plays.
I mean, it's a good position to look uphill and try to get some kills of open players, but they're going to have to move up that very same hill in just a couple of moments. The Sonics with a bomb taking out Sub-Zero from the vehicle.
Ooh, who are these guys? They're so magical. How are they in 8th
Listen,
place?
there is a reason. I don't care that they're in 8th right now. There is a reason why Hypoc and me, and I think maybe one other person, voted Sonics at the beginning of the grand finals last week. They have shown up now. Is it enough to to climb up and shoot up the rankings? We'll have to see, but already 9 kills. It's definitely a good start.
All right, looks like, Maluk coming around here. Exodus, after starting so strong, they got 303 out. They took out D-Rich a little while ago. Now you got Hardships coming up behind them and causing them some big trouble as Chubba and his partner head up the hill. Pat Cap's taking some fire from above. Oath is in a good spot if they can eliminate their threats from downhill. It's imperative that they take out Pat Caps, but instead, Balefrost goes down to Microfry.
Microfire also goes down, so it's not. Ooh. They didn't get that kill for free, Exodus, and I think it's just by himself. Good nade thrown as well, and they're going to go out in 6th place. And as you mentioned, now that Oath have cleared their corner, they have a strong position to just focus in on the center of the circle. The blue is about to close in about 10 seconds, and they can just death ball from there. Once Oath get into a final circle, they're a strong force to reckon with.
If they've got 4, which they have been suffering in this one, they're down to just 3, so I hope they can hold. Personally, Relo has seemed off of his game last weekend, so I'm hoping he gets his feet back under him and gets back to the performance level we know Relo is capable of, but already Oath has climbed 2 spots in just this match. Now, the Comet's not going to allow that as they take some shots from above. We see the Hardships coming in from the left side. Snaker's going to go ahead and live up to his namesake as he gets down and low, dirty behind the hill, moving slow and trying to make some plays. Wolf coming in behind him, the elder statesman on the team, known for his level-headed composure. Let's see if he can lead this team to victory over the Hardships, as I believe they're probably going to bump up against each other here sooner rather than later.
Yeah, Hardships are actually being given a lot of map control, and it's not the most oppressive considering it's on the low ground. But right now, it's the Comets. They're trying to gatekeep multiple teams. It's Radiance and the Sonics, and we've seen what the Sonics can do to Comets already, taking that Wizard Tower from them. And look at the push by Profi. Who else would you expect to get behind enemy lines like this? If he can open up, it's actually just D-Treats left because Victor was taken out.
D-Treats the nice little hide-and-seek game. Los HD was actually almost perfect. Just barely missed landing it inside. Mime opens fire, gets the knock on Victor, and now D-Treats has to stand alone. The Cheese stands by itself as he tries to make something happen with threats from all sides. Profi also closing in, and you can see Radiance just putting in work. The Molotov is too much, and D-Treats is just getting pinned in. Los
Look
HD
at this
might
push
be visible.
by Lobes. I mean, and the push by Los as well. Both LO players. Dietrich goes down, but now Los, he's spotted out by Sonic, so this is going to be a 2v1 push, I believe. He's trying to maneuver his position around. Just barely spotted the side of the smoke, I have to imagine.
Nice
but no, he actually didn't. He didn't.
Los HD catches him from the side. Nice slip through, but now he's aware. Prime time, mime time, baby, as he does eliminate Radiance and gets into the trench just in time for the pickup. So Profi going to be back in play as Mime picks him up. The trench is now theirs, but the blue is on their tail. Oath in the hard shift, still playing 2000 IQ PUBG as they go in a chess match left and right, rocking around each other. They both know the Sonics are about to be pushing down this hill. Profi will redrop to the blue, but that's okay. The points have been denied to their opponents, and now it's going to be Mime that pushes forward. Unless, he can't chain heal. He can chain Resum, I think.
Yeah.
All right.
He was just tapped by the blue, catching his heal, I want to say, that dropped him the second time. And because he was just barely able to get inside, easy revive as long as they had the first aid kits. And the push by Lobes, I thought it was actually going to be a more aggressive maneuver by him. I understand not going too liberal with it because the blue was the zone was about to transition into phase 8. And hard shifts, they had good positioning, but Oath have been uncontested in taking this center position. It is the only hard cover that is still in the circle, so hard shifts might be kicking themselves for losing this opportunity.
Yeah, but you can't. Yes, you will, but you can't. What? What? Nothing else I said matters. Maluk with the bolty, headshots prime time with the that was beautiful. Keep in mind, guys, we saw the X-ray. The visual for Maluk was insane. That was awesome.
Yeah. At least it's revived again. But Sonics, they're just going to keep bleeding out faster and faster. Hardships weren't able to finalize that kill because they are still worried about a flank on the east side. You keep seeing Maluk look to his east. But on the Sonics, the blue is pushing in. There's not much they can do other than try and deploy some smokes and get shot from the low ground. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they just gave themselves over to the blue. Reload dropping Mime. And, trying to find the angle. But no, Profi's just giving himself up. That Sonic's out in third place.
They accepted the reality of their situation. They tried right, it failed. They tried left, it failed. And we do finally see the showdown between the hard shifts and Oath. It came later rather than sooner, but it is ultimately going to happen. Oath has 3 up as they look for the attack from the Houston hard shifts. 2 teams with pedigrees and names that deserve to go the distance, and both need some rankings as they move into the final fight of the game. Mollies are going to go in. Nades are going to go in. Relo's going to have to take a little bit of a hidey spot as Maluk and the team comes forward. It's a 3v3 for victory in game number 1 of the PUBG Continental Series.
Oh, that smoke doesn't make its way into the window. That's huge. If that smoke blocked off Relo's vision from the top floor, I think that would have given Hardships a good, leg in this fight. But right now, as long as he's still in that tower,
they got the
there
star.
aren't that many directions that Hardships can move. Snakers drops Chubba. That's 2 versus 3.
Nice high ground rotation. Snaker's going to open up with the barrel. Look at that thing, and may as well renamed the laser beam as he opens fire and hand cannons him down. Starts to keep the going out. Chubba taking some damage. Not going to be able to get that res. Now it's just going to be Maluk on the tree. They know where he is. He's taking shots from both sides. Going to go ahead and get that heal off. 2 versus 3. Loeb still at full health and unspotted. Has the chance to make a play. The volley comes out, but he dodges it. Doesn't dodge the bullets, though, as Relo gets the knock. Last man standing. Loeb's tosses smokes out. Can he do a 3v1? Looking to the high ground left and right. He spotted Snakers, opens fire, gets the knock. That's going to make it a 2v1. Lobes has time to heal as the rest of Oath starts to close the distance. Fire pre-firing, very nicely done as they try to hold him in. He spotted Wolf. He knows where he is. Lobes has the left side peek, but the blue is closing. On his back, the pain is there. He can't stay long. He's got to move. Very aware the blue steps into it and back out. Now at 27 health. Knows he had to take the risk to try for the relocate. Goes up to the left. He's going to spot Wolf. Wolf has no idea. He gets him down. It's a 1v1, but with a little bit of health. He goes for the spray. Gets the peek on Relo. Relo puts his head out. Jumps out the back window. He goes for the fire, but Relo gets it, and Oath takes the win with 10 kills, Cameron.
No, he almost did it. Woo! It's because Relo landed on the UAZ. That's the only reason why. You saw the reticle. It traced down all the way to the bottom. He wasn't expecting the vehicle to block. Oh my, so heartbreaking. It was so close.
And I think that
still get the win.
Hardships learned it's not as easy to take the Oath as some say it is. Oath comes out big time. They started in 12th place. They get the win, a chicken dinner, and 10 kills. That's a 20 popper to start the day, Cameron. if you're in comeback mode, there is no better way to start it.
Yeah, you do have to mention, though, they were given a little bit of an advantage considering where the circle was, where they loot. This is their most comfortable circle for themselves. Mm-hmm. But can they take this and continue on once the circle is going to inevitably go away from them? We all know it's going to go to military base the next round. So,
yeah, and you're right. That is their drop. They finished very close to where they start. You know, we've seen teams like FaZe win these sort of moves up towards Lumber constantly because of the value that comes from looting on that side of the map. That said, they did put in work. I mean, they got a good kill count.
Yeah.
They had to earn their way there. So I'm not going to take anything away from them. But we do have to ask, if the circles don't favor them going forward like they didn't last weekend, is it going to be enough to sustain them?
I think as long as it's not a heavy West series on Erangel like we saw last week, then they should be doing better. Oath are really good if they find themselves in a solid position in the circle and don't have to move too far. And obviously, if it's a circle on the far west coast, they have to move like further at the very beginning.
I mean, they're the opposite of STK, right? We saw STK go out relatively early in this match because they literally had to come across the entire map. I would argue this is a worse rotation for them than even military to a certain extent. So that's kind of what you see with those long drops. The risk and the reward of an edge drop or, you know, a polar drop is that you sometimes really have to chase. But Oath stepping up in game number 1. Can't say I sad to see it. They were my pick this weekend, so finally seeing some sparks from them has been exciting. Also, the hard shifts, though. Second place, very exciting. Cameron, that's all the time that we have to talk. We're coming back with another game in just a few minutes, but let's send it back to the panel to talk about stuff.
Here we are. We are going to talk about so much stuff. It's going to blow your friggin' minds, man. But a lot of stuff to talk about after that first game as we see Oath, once again, hashtag take the circle, and they get the big win with 10K. But, you know, at the end of the day, it did come down to a really nice little 1v1 there, Hypoc.
It did, yeah. Loeb's actually putting in some work in the final situation now. Unfortunately, not to get any of the flushes, but Relo kind of styling on him with the Volt.
I mean, like, Maluk with a Bolty, Matchroom? What is it? Is this 2020?
I know. I love everything that's going on with the hard shifts right now. If they can just tighten it up a little bit more and we see those kills coming in early, it would be so beautiful. I'm just confused by this. What is happening here? They're killing each other. They're killing their own teammates in that.
Sharp shot tilted off the face of the earth. That's probably what happened there. As we see Roth taking a few shots at a transitioning Illusion. Zenith was working the outside of the circle there on the top side. Didn't see as much success as Oath did, though, as the circle shifted away. A couple of really hard southern shifts there, Hypoc.
Yeah, there was a couple, and I'm with Cammy. Obviously, this coming down to an Oath win. You can't take anything away from them. They know how to play these circles, and you can see they execute a very similar game plan as usual. We're going to see the little vault out style here. Really unfortunate there. Loeb's had to take a little angle through the stairs, and I mean, when you land a headshot with the barrel, we know it's devastating, especially when you got no first aids. We know Loeb's only had 6 bandies left, so.
Well, once again, we see hard shifts up there in the top. Oath now we're seeing maybe do a little bit of resurgence in third place. Sonics. I mean, 11 kills, and they were looking pretty good. Matt, I mean, is this a Sonics resurgence?
One could hope. I mean, we saw Mime stepping up, getting a lot of kills. Profi getting a lot of kills as well. H1 coming away with 2. They were very active on a lot of the side fights and what was going on around them. So good overall awareness between Oath and I would say Sonics, and finding really what would have been a bad situation and moving in and making sure that they're at least picking up kills to make their way up the leaderboard. So let's take a quick look at where everybody's looking in that last round.
Here we go. You see Oath, Sonics, and hard shifts up in that top 3, all with double digits of points. And then you have to go all the way down to shoot to kill. Hypoc, shoot to kill, 1 kill point.
Yeah.
How did that happen? I got lost. Could you remind me?
Well, of all the players in the lobby, it was actually Kurt that ratted Shrimsy. So it's just absolutely beautiful gameplay following on from the video we saw just before the show went live. But yeah, Kurt unfortunately left as a solo. I'm surprised he even made it. We were even talking about it. Is he just going to tank blue? But no, of all things he does, he walks up on Sonics and gets a kill in Lumberyard. But obviously, fantastic game from Sonics. We didn't really talk about hard shifts too much in the pre-show today. Again, they they just quietly make their way through. Again, that fantastic on the 8-shot from Maluk, but they just like quietly make their way into the end game, and then it's like it gets to like 22 minutes into a game, we're like, wait, Hardshifts are fragging out, and they're in a godlike position.
Yeah,
I have
they
now
came in-
realized the power that I have. See, if I support a team and I pick them in predictions, shoot to kill gets 1. I talk a little bit of trash about Oath, 20 points. Now I just gotta pick who I'm gonna talk trash about, and they're gonna win rounds, right?
I mean, really, the superpower is something that these teams should start taking advantage of. I'm
Yeah,
surprised we haven't really seen your DMs start just filling up with people
they
just
have.
asking if
With requests.
I don't know.
That's true.
You don't know.
That is possible. You have been very discreet about your DMs. But so leaderboards, we were talking about Hardships. They find themselves coming into this game in 2nd place, but they were coming into today in 4th place. And as you said,
Yeah.
we didn't really get a whole lot of chance to talk about just how well that team has been doing.
Yeah, and it's fantastic we get to see them in endgame, because I feel like we don't really follow their journey. Obviously, they're coming over from West into a mill to power circle. I feel like that, to get into a dominant position in those, you have to be there so early. You have to be effective with your scouting. It's like one of the hardest, obviously, rotations out of any of the teams on a circle like this in this lobby. But, I mean, Loeb's kind of demonstrating how talented some of the individuals are. We saw Chuba last week with that. 2 clutch plays last week.
Yeah.
Obviously, the one on Miramar when he kind of backstabbed, was it Zenith in the wildcard Zenith end game? But yeah, I mean, I've just been impressed by the fact that we've not really been talking about it, and they're in the position they're in. And again, that's kind of, I think, down to their gameplay. It's very slow, methodical through early and mid, and then once they feel as if they're in a strong end game position, they start flexing out. We start seeing them on camera. They start taking fights, and they look really good.
Well, we also don't see Hardships ever take prolonged fights.
Exactly.
That seems to be one of the
Yes.
recipes for success. If they think that a fight is going to last more than a minute or so, they just don't want to be a part of any third party. And so their fights happen so fast, it's sometimes hard for us to catch what's going on with them. You've got to see them moving and then opt into going over there to see their fights. And while they're not always explosive in the amount of kills that they get, whenever they take a fight, it is over like that. Unless it's a late game fight where they're having to kind of scrounge around for something. If it's a mid or early game fight and they start shooting at you, you're pretty much certain that you're about to die.
Yeah, I mean, this once again we saw Fabled. They didn't finish in the top there. They got taken out a little bit early, but they still ended up with a nice little handful of kills. What is going on with Fabled? I mean, we've talked about that they're doing really well, but what is it that's I'm having a hard time figuring it out. What is it exactly that they're doing that's making them so successful? Is it just aggression, Matt?
No, hi, Pac. He had something he wanted to say.
Oh,
and
Pac,
I think you
I'm
can answer
sorry.
it better.
Yeah, go for it,
I'll let him go because
I mean,
I know so much about this.
he says I have something to say about it, but it's something that's just kind of come out of nowhere for me. And again, I talked about this in the games I was casting last week, and we saw that third party on Exodus up by Primor's Kill, that weird circle that just kept going towards the water. And that's one of the factors. We've never seen Fabled kind of flex out of their position. You never see them spread. You never see somebody kind of like push out 50 to 75 meters away from their kind of position, if you like, their compound, their building, or whatever. But we saw them kind of like playing off the information around themselves in the circle. And that's something we've just never seen Fabled do, especially not in the last kind of 2 months or so of when we've been watching them. Obviously, there is a roster change to account for. I don't know how much that individual has brought to the table for the team, but they've definitely just been more active overall in terms of third partying, more aggressive positioning, scouting things, and actually crashing compounds that are occupied. Are just things that we never used to see of that team. So it's great that it's working out for them, but where that kind of decision to switch up and whether or not it's a confidence thing, we've got a load of points, we can keep playing like this, build the momentum. I don't know, but it's been fantastic to see them play this way.
Well, I wanted to follow up with that real quick. So, I was making a joke a second ago, but one of the things about it to note is exactly to follow up with what you're saying. They're getting a lot of their points based off of kills. Placement points are one of the secondary factors inside of it. And we would see moments whenever we were watching Fable play through qualifiers before this where they were, I wouldn't say passive, but almost like skittish of fights. And then whenever they had their backs against the wall, they'd have like these moments that were really, really good, but we just never saw it be consistent. Now it feels like there's just confidence coming in specifically in the mid game where they're taking longer range fights and, like you said, breaching buildings. That's one of the things we never saw Fable do beforehand. Now they just come rolling in and take a fight and feel confident while they're doing it and walk away with the kills.
Well, there you go. We got one game in the books already, and we have started the comeback for Oath and Sonics. We'll see if that can keep going into game number 2. Toffees, Cameron, take us away.
I don't know how we top that last ending, Cameron. That was absolutely fire, and I hope it happens again.
Well, I mean, the only way to top it is if Lobes actually wins that 1v3.
He was so close, though.
So close. It really is the Jeep. It really was the Jeep that just like ruined it all for him. Plus the fact that he had like 1 bullet of health left. That I think was probably an effect.
You know, and
but anyway, new game.
What was the slickness of the play? Like him stepping into the blue to get the relocation and being willing to take the ticks ultimately almost won the game, but cost him, right? So like it's PUBG in a nutshell. Go ahead.
By doing that, he was able to get the drop on Wolf. You saw Wolf hiding behind the tree, still looking at his old angle, not expecting anyone to go into the blue because that late of a game, who in their right mind would actually go back into the blue? Like,
right? That's using your left lobe. All right, he made a nice little play there. Is it left? I don't know which one's creative. All right, it is time for us to get into the match. The plate is in the air. Cameron is out of his chair, and it's time for us to share some more action from Game 2. It is day 3 of the PCS North America. The plane has moved left to right, but everyone can go pretty much wherever they want, and Cameron, it is not going to be a military circle.
It's not, I know, I'm sorry to say it, it's not going to be a military circle. I think this is the longest number of games it's going to take for us to get a military because there is no way we're not going to get a military circle today, right? Surely. If it's not on the first game, if it's not on the second game, it's got to be on the third game.
I wish that I had the mustard seed level of faith you have in circles. But I don't know if that's going to happen. My vibe is that we're going to see Stalber Circle today at some point. So we'll see if that happens.
Maybe.
But the game is underway. Oh, the winners of the last match, Relo, the hero, is going to be our focus as he drops into position. And it is the exact opposite of the last circle. We talked about it at the end of the last game, Cameron. Yeah. What if it goes this way?
What if it goes this way? This has a lot of field in this circle. It's a little bit of water, it's a little bit of mountain. It's pretty wide open for the very first one. I'm not gonna try and guess where exactly it's gonna end up because there's a number of varieties. The early game though should be very tame compared to the previous game. The issue with the previous game's first circle is that the routes of access into the circle were very limited. It's why we saw a number of transitional kills because there were too many more choke points than usual. This one, it's opened wide up. I don't expect to see nearly as many kills in the early game this time.
Exodus, we're going to join them as they get some looting. Old Taylor J here grabs himself the warehouses. What do you think of this drop? Obviously, because of the nature of the plane, they decided to get out early, and it ends up working out. We'll jump to STK at Georgia Pool. Is Zarky, is it doable? Is it ever reasonable?
It's reasonable in a plane path like that if you're able to get to it early. But if you have to fly to it, it's not good. It's not really worth it, I don't think. It's not the worst loot in terms of how long it takes you to kind of cycle through the whole city, but it's still just the distance away from the center of the map and the rotations out of it. Unless you just need to go straight east, it's not the best.
So if you're playing in a ranked game, right, like a normal person, like the rest of us, and that fourth person, that pub guy you just happened to pick up in the queue says, "Guys, we got to go Zarky." What is your response to him? Is there ever a chance? You'll do it? Okay.
Oh, I'll do it. I'll make a call. I full send. I'm an all-in kind of guy.
I like that you're an all-in kind of guy for the pub too, right? Like you don't go, listen, we're 3 strong, buddy. Just hang on and follow. You give him the respect. I like that. Let's jump over to ATC as they cross the bridge into STK territory. They don't have to worry about a lot right now. I like the slick early rotation.
This is early.
But with the way that plane went and the way the drops were sort of laying out, that they know this whole area is just a ridiculous amount of problems if they wait longer than 2 or 3 minutes. So quick rotation up onto Everest to do some scouting. Very, very nice. STK looks like they're also sending somebody up there to the high ground.
STK like to go to this almost every single round. ATC, I'm not sure how often they do this, but I think one reason why they're going so early is to beat STK here. I don't think they're going to be crossing over into the opposite sides. Like, I don't see ATC pushing on the west side of the mountain or STK coming too far east. I say that, Uncivil, he's kind of peeking over on the minimap. But ATC, they're not sticking around for him. They care here to scout ahead and find a better position, maybe?
Yeah, I think there was a scout. He was smart enough to move the car just in case Civ did go up there early and peek down. You don't want to lose your tires and get locked on that hill as STK responds. Wildcard making their rotations as well. We can see Jazza on the drive. We got to see Wildcard had a bit of a frustrating game last time around. We saw them trying to hold those containers down by Milta Power, and they just got kind of taken apart and then dismantled by 3 or 4 teams, one after another. So hoping to make a bit of a comeback in this game as we look back into ATC. Any trolls in the chat as they rotate down to a decent spot. It's not a bad spot to hold, especially with the potential for the field endings.
Yeah, I don't hate it. It's not my favorite spot in the early game. You can see kind of how wide open it is. The biggest worry is protecting the tires of the vehicles. Uncivil might actually have a good angle on a couple of them. But outside of that, it's a pretty good spot for the early game. Just wait to see where the second circle goes.
All right, got a rotation by Liberate as they try to set themselves apart in this field. Nice long drive, blowing up hay bales. Why? Because you can. That's the lush way. That's the right way. And the best part of Erangel, in my opinion, right now. I love blowing up hay bales, and I'm not going to apologize for that.
No,
the
it's
same way
fine.
that you
It's
love
just-
shooting tires, I love hay bale destruction.
It's true. It's true.
Cameron
Tires
loves
and
shooting
windows.
tires out. I don't know if you guys know that or not, but he is
It's called being active, and it's a war of attrition. What do you mean? What are you doing? Oh, there's no one in the field. There's no one in the hill. But what there is someone else contesting this mountain.
Yeah.
Top Dog slowly sneaking up. He's got some backup behind him. This looks to be a coordinated, intended attack onto STK.
Yeah, well, he'll have to prove something. I mean, he made the top dog, but he's got the low ground. His STK does have 4 up, and they are in the advantageous high position. So if Top can open with a headshot here to start it off, they get the play. But now the warning is up. STK with the wiggle peaks all over the place, and Luke 12, no surprise, drops the first closed shot of the fight. Top dog down to 25.
Yeah, there's the illusion player on the low ground just to the north of them inside God Compound. I think he opened up fire first, and if that's the case, that's, I think, the misplay, because you want to let your close range players sneak up if they're not spotted and take the opening shots before the sort of flank position, crossfire position comes in. But because of that illusion, they're backing off. You guys actually see a couple of shots onto them from the south. I think that's either ATC or the hard shifts.
All right, as we go back to the top of the hill, shoot to kill, going to feel pretty good up here. They've played it many, many times, and they had to be excited to see that circle. Their fans often say shoot to kill, chasing circles is really their theme song. That said, getting a good start is going to mean a lot to them as they try to maintain their position. Some of the guys on the analysis desk think that STK has a chance of throwing this lead. With circles like this, though, it becomes a lot harder to do.
It does, and I was talking to a couple members of SDK about, I asked them to convince me why this time is going to be any different. And a couple of the responses, one is that they were the most consistent team in the lobby right now, which you have to say is true. Fable had a really good first day, but their second day sort of slipped back a little bit. Zenith had a really good second day, but their first day wasn't super great. So it's not like there's anyone who's terribly challenging them at the moment. And also, Purdy just said that as long as they don't die in vehicles, then the morale is up and good. Ooh, speaking of vehicles, though, Landu trying to seat swap on a J. Jay's just trying to get out of there. Let him be, but nope, not going to happen. 3-3 want this kill.
They fought.
They fought over it.
Oh, that's good. I thought Landu was going to hit himself there for a second, pull a Sims, if you will. And that said, Landu with the pop-off. They want to go after the rest of Elusive. Nice shot! Hits the head! And Innate is running for the hills. That's the downside of the bolty, Cameron. The hit is so sweet, but the kill doesn't come through. It takes so long to get your second shot off again.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, as long as they allow one-hit kills with the bolt action, then I think it'll be super viable. But the biggest issue is that was that a level 2 for them, 24, onto a level 2 helmet?
Do you remember that brief moment in time when we were getting, M24s were getting one headshot kills?
Yeah.
Car 98s were OP.
Nice.
It was a fun couple weeks, if I remember correctly. I enjoyed it. That said, it is good to see you not get, there's also going to be said for the lucky one shot isn't really a thing. all the
Yeah.
time. Because that is, like, the reality is, let's be honest, these guys are very good, but sometimes that shot on the motorcycle moving at full speed is just as lucky for them as it is for us.
I mean, that's the same for any FPS game.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Let's not say that like PUBG is the exact same with that way. I will say overall though, I do think the time to kill in this game is in a very, very nice spot.
Yeah.
Might be a little fast if you're using the barrel, just a little bit.
Yeah, that's been the discussion. There's been a lot of discussion about the barrel meta being perhaps becoming one of the most prolific metas to date, even more than that M4 period. Remember the period where we saw an M4 as your range weapon and your close weapon?
And your close range weapon?
Yep.
Yeah.
It was just basically a red dot versus a 4 or a 6X, or I think it was 4 or 8 at the time. But that said, like, there is discussion that this may be the emergence of a meta that's even more monochrome in a lot of ways because of how strong the barrel is from mid to short range.
Yeah, I mean, emergence, it's already happening.
That's true.
Especially Europe has had the barrel meta for longer because I believe they transitioned over to the barrel patch before North America did. But even here, you're seeing a lot of it, and it just comes down to the fact that it's at this point too easy to control. Back when it was a lot more difficult to control, when it required a lot more resources in terms of finding the loot for the attachments, then you can argue that it was balanced at that point. But now you kind of just pick it up, you stick 1 or 2 attachments onto it, which is not the most difficult to find, and as long as you spot them first, you basically get the kill. But
STK crashing in on hard shifts as Lobes tries to find the rocks. He runs away, but Unciv had a better spot, gets the pop. Luke 12 making his play. J-Sang going to have to hold a corner and hope for the best, but it's the barrel. We talked about the MVP gun. Can it hold against a potential push? Luke 12 doing some scouts abouts. They finish Lobes and knock him out, and now J-Sang stuck in the house by himself as Purdy comes running from the distance. I'm coming, guys! As he closes the gap, does manage to come in. They seem to know that J-Sank is likely inside. Luke 12 is going to go up on the rock and take some shots at Maluk as he was thinking about coming to help. Good awareness by STK to know exactly where the second half of the team would be.
Yeah, and it's also good for Hardships to pull off of this because if STK pushed this building and Jason got a drop and even a confirmed kill off of it, then I think Hardships would have something to play with. But at this point, STK stole this from them fair and square. And the way that they did it is exactly how you want to take this position. You have a couple people come from the west and then one person come up from the north side that you saw Uncivil did, holding that ridge. And he even actually got the first knock while I believe it was Luke and Alo rushing in from the west side.
It is possible that they haven't. J-Sank hasn't moved very much, so they may not know he's in there. We'll keep an eye on it as it goes forward. Let's jump over to Fabled, where they're facing off against Illusion for control of the castle up there on the high ground. Illusion has Church and Castle, which puts Fabled in actually a pretty rough position if they want to try to get aggressive here.
What information do they know? Ranger might have spotted Greg shot there, or he might have had the opportunity, but he doesn't seem to make it, and they're just waiting right now because Illusion, they're still moving, they're still maneuvering themselves around, and you don't want to be stuck in this in the middle of ruins in the early or even really the mid game because rotations out of it are quite rough. And so I like that they're leaving Free Me Pleased for some high ground information, see if you can't spot anyone, especially if they know that Fabled are this close to them. But the rest of them moved around to see where the next circle shifts, and it's going to go even further away from them. A medium shift towards the east, Pachinki and the Pachinki Fields, a big factor in this game.
Oath in not a bad position as they make their rotation to join Relo and the rest of the gang. We'll keep an eye on Fabled. In the meantime, we did see that developing fight between STK and the Hard Shifts continuing as they go back and forth on their side of the map. The problem is both teams are now outside the circle and will likely have to disengage and make their rotation. Greg still trying to find something. Tanaka does manage to catch Top Dog as Illusion was trying to extract themselves from this sticky situation. So Fable is now up 1.
Tanaka's trying to look for more. This could be really, really bad for Illusion. But they're not trying to push their luck, and they actually could keep Fabled here a little too long. Hello tries to spot ahead, but Free Me Please, he's going to back off. He doesn't want to stick around for this. Maybe try and find alternate angle. That's a grenade that comes out just too short.
That was a sick molly. It was good. I made the relocation, buy some time for Free Me Please to move, because you saw what Hella was doing. She was watching the only 2 sort of revealable spots that Free Me Please could have used, so he will move away. Meanwhile, by the way, that was happening, STK did lose another player to Hard Shifts and got flushed that time, so that fight's still continuing as 303 Esports makes their movements down here. They're going to be able to get this edge compound without too much trouble, jump out and take some shots at Exodus, who's been struggling on rotations lately.
lately. I think Nexus's biggest problem
Fair.
has always been rotation. They are a group of talented guys when it comes to a team fight. It's just finding a position to get into those team fights safely. That's always been their worry, but they are able to make their way into a side compound. Not sure how in the circle it is, but back over here, Illusion still hasn't backed off, and neither has Fabled, and the blue is pushing in right now. You can finally see Illusion get into their vehicles.
This is starting to feel like mad play. Like same we're getting sort of out of what STK was doing with the hard shifts. It's mutually assured destruction. ATC does try to lock out STK. Marco goes on the ground as Marco tries to smoke and flash himself backwards and away from the onslaught. Civ down to a quarter health. As STK, I think, was as surprised as we were to see them fighting ATC just now.
Yeah, just a little bit. Until actually goes down to a good grenade of Mero, those sort of fade-away grenades that he was tossing out, as well as the smokes. And STK, they need to make the decision. Do they want to go and try and retrieve their fallen teammate, or this just stick as 3 because the blue is pushing in? I wouldn't mind them going for this fight, though. Unfortunately, Civil has bled out so much that it could be a little too late. Alo's going for it, but the bleed out's going to happen, unfortunately. And now Alo's in the middle of all this gunfire because Aguila, wide flank. He does get dropped by Luke.
Luke does it, but Tanaka is going to cause some trouble as he takes Luke down. So Fable getting involved. Marsalek gets Alo. Tanaka then gets Aguila. So Fable kind of coming out as the heroes of this fight. STK down to Purdy and a knocked Alo. Hard shifts, by the way, just across the road, watching the entire thing unfold as they've been in a bit of a pitched running battle for a while and content to let ATC and Fabled put in the hard work to stop STK, as now Purdy's forced to just lay outside of the blue and rethink his entire approach to PUBG.
Yeah, we saw the next phase shift again towards the east. That's 2 medium hard shifts in a row in the same direction. So all of these teams that have been running shouldering are going to have to continue that way. ATC, they want to finish off Purdy, but at the same time, they can't wait too long themselves because they still have a long distance to run.
Illusion will be eliminated in the 16th place as they did get into that fight with Fable, just couldn't make it happen. Honey Badger takes out Ice Tech from Liberate elsewhere on the map as ATC decides to load up and start their rotation away. Purdy going to hide out and just wait for the trouble to pass. Let's look at Radiance as they also start their rotation. You can see Fabled in the distance behind them. It seemed like Radiance was waiting for Fabled, but Fabled was such a drawn-out fight they eventually gave up. Ice Tech, what? How? He's playing dodge car, but you can't dodge bullets.
That just reminds me of, you know, that old game where it's like Traffic Jam or something and you had to get the red car to like the exit space?
Nope.
It's almost like those puzzle games that you had to shift the pieces around in the set.
Oh, like the golf tees at Cracker Barrel.
I don't know what that is. So, listen, a boomer and a millennial have a conversation. It goes all over the place. No one knows what the references are. So let's just pull off of this one.
I'm just like you, fellow kids. All right, Yaxley going to push down towards the hard shifts. Yaxley with the slow walk, got the M4, looking to make some action. I don't think that they know that he's here. Maluk glancing about, making a bit of a racket. Victor going to come in from the other side, potentially to cause a distraction. D-Treats does bleed out in the meantime as Yaxley moves around the back of the house. Maluk, clever spot.
Anyone's here. Yeah, it's a nice little sneaky position.
STK in 15th, by the way.
Oh, well, let's not talk about who guessed STK win. ATC here also taking a good number of kills. I wonder how many they have total because they've been in a lot of different scrappy fights. I don't think it's an exorbitant amount just yet, but 303, they already have 5 when there's only 2 squads removed. Well, make it 3 because Comet's just left.
That's true. 36 players alive, though, so we got a lot of people limping themselves into the circle as Voxic wants to go ahead and stop ATC from limping by just cutting the legs out from under him. He didn't take that initial shot, though, but I expect him to attack from behind. There it is. He's going to open fire. Come on, Vox. He does get one down, but takes a little bit of return damage from Marsalek. Now he's going to go ahead and try for the right peaks. Opens the spray, but ultimately he pays as Morrow takes him down. They're going to go for the res. They should have enough time to get it off as the blue is a bit slow. Liberate goes out in the meantime as we jump to Fable, who, remember, got in a bit of a cluster fight there with Illusion, and now has to move into the rocks down here by Package, and are going to try to find themselves a little bit of position. T8 getting pushed from behind by Mime, as Mime comes up over the hill, but he takes some real damage. They don't know that he's there, though. It was Zen that
Yeah.
shot at him.
Yeah, so Tactical 8 might be none the wiser
time,
with this
mime
mine push, and he's
time.
going to go for it. Yo, there. Okay, it took a little longer. It took a little while for him to get it. He's going to get inside the blue, secure the kill. Does he know someone's in the smoke? That's the big
No.
question.
Drive the car!
Just
Drive the car forward!
W,
Drive the car
Just
forward!
drive forward! Please
Drive
do it!
forward! Oh, no!
No! Grizzly finds the angle, and that's a good save because Steezy is currently getting revived by William. So Tactical 8 are able to maintain as 3. Sonic's also down to 3. Oh, that nade.
What even is this?
What is happening?
Grizzly goes back into the smoke to heal up again. Mime did get the kill and tried for a cheeky heal inside the car. That vehicle cannot be in good shape as he does load up and try to drive away. Shrimzy does get himself top back up in time to get some peaks. Zenith has caused some problems, but T8 now making their move. Can Shrimzy cause trouble for them?
He's going to try, but Tactical 8, they're causing trouble for themselves because they're forced to bomb into a compound. Luckily, Fabled actually, well, took a couple of Zenith members out.
No!
Oh, Hella inside, tried to beat him into the garage, and William's going to take him out. Grizzly, though, does go down in the meantime to Greg Shot. So, taking this compound is not without its casualties.
Yeah. Bold play by Mr. Wee Moo as he makes a nice knockdown.
And Zenith
Takes
coming
Hella
back.
out. Here comes the crash. He's got Craig Shot to worry about. He's got to look up. He's the last remaining member of Tactical 8's. Got the nade ready. Roth is like chasing him with the fires of 1,000 furnaces. He seems to just be hunting him down right now. So William's got to be careful here as he nades. I like that, actually. Cleaning up the only place he could have been hiding on the second floor. That'll clear him to push up. Wait a minute. Surprise! Weemoo comes in with the kill. I know his name's William, but Weemoo is just so much fun to yell.
Down to 1 HP. Roth almost removed Tactical A out in 10th place. But instead, he's just gonna... You can see he's having a little bit of a toddler fit there.
He killed him so
the
hard
door
he's
frame.
raging. Hardships is eliminated. Chubba goes down to Pat Caps elsewhere on the map. And now Greg Shot's looking to come in. And everyone wants to take their vengeance on William. But so far, he has been playing out of his mind. The drop down, the spot down, the burn down. And William gets another member.
Did Greg Shot not spot the drop? Because William certainly saw Greg Shot in the window. Oh!
Unexpected.
All right, Leda's gonna get this. Like this whole
I'll
party
take unexpected
is
snipes
over.
for 10,000, Alex.
Yeah, just randomly there. But Leda, he's in a bit of a pickle himself. Forced to prone down, caught between Sonics and Oath. We were finally getting engagements between teams that are relatively healthy.
Yeah, places I don't want to find myself standing between Sonics and Oath. Definitely on the top of that list. And but you know what? Worth it because that kill is going to make Leda feel real good on sort of the vengeance front there as he does sit behind a lonely tree and hope for the best.
Oh boy.
Oh boy is right.
The circle shift does help him out a little bit, but it's still not great. He just has to hope that Sonics and Oath get distracted by each other and don't push the
But
low
look
ground.
at the scoreboard, Cameron. Sonics and Oath both started below the top 7 today. Oath in particular at 12.
Yeah.
They needed big first games. STK and Fable have they haven't dropped the ball. They took the ball. They put it on the ground. They kicked it as hard as they could. It got a good bounce off of the road, bounced a couple more times, and is gone. And the guys from Sonics and Oath have closed the gap and made a win possible. And they're not even done with game 2 yet.
I think you're being a little exaggerating just a little bit with STK or Fable dropping the ball.
A 15
but yeah,
out
it's
and a
definitely
14
not a
out?
good
Come on.
start.
That's
It's
bad.
definitely not a good start for the first 2 games for those squads. But Sonics and Oath are taking this opportunity to have good games of their own. Ooh, T-Sock does go down. Elusive trying to crawl back into this game, and the blue is not helping them out. Fizzle also gets dropped. See, when Exodus are in good positions and all they have to worry about is shooting, they perform.
Yeah. If we could drop them into the final circle every time, it'd be great. Or the last 4 circles.
Tactical hot drop.
Tactical hot drop. Pat Caps falling back as Innate does push up the hill, keeping some vision as he goes. Innate could be a bit of a spoiler here. Never mind.
Nope.
Dead. Got him.
Yeah.
All right. What else can you say
There's
about
not much
that?
to say about that.
Exactly. So I was building up, hoping he'd pull something off, and then nada. Zenith goes out as well. We're down to 4 teams alive, 2 down on the Sonics. So as Oath has come to play today, and that is readily apparent. They're going to move down the line, try to get some flush outs and some kills on the Sonics. Exodus still has 3 up, as does Wildcard has 4. So once they clear through here, they do have a tall order against them in order of taking out the last 2 teams. They're going to go ahead and get Profi as well as Shrimzy down. Snakers does take some damage from the last member there, and they've got to be careful. We've got Hwin hiding behind the rock. He takes 2 pops, and now he's low, but he's going to go out as Microfi catches him in the flank. That's the end of the Sonics, and opens the door for Oath, Wildcard, and Exodus to finish this one out.
I like that Oath pushed the Sonics to secure their position and secure top 3, but by doing so, Exodus just pushed behind them, backfilled, and took the high ground from them. And so now Oath, they're in a rough position. They need to book it back and try and take a close quarters fight. Yes, they got the circle, but they are on the low ground. If Wildcard just push up north, Oath are going to be sitting ducks.
They need to book it, but Oath just got to the final chapter. That circle is great if they can beat Exodus, but Exodus has the high ground, opens fire. It's a back and forth. Snakers gets Pat Caps, but Pat Caps gets Relo. Wolf gets Drassel, and the fight goes on. Wildcard will see the flares going into the air, saying, now's the time to push, and should be coming up from behind, potentially catching Exodus with their backs turned. Oath is desperate for them to get involved right now. Pat Caps is down. Microfry, the last man standing. Wildcard coming over the top of the hill in a pattern meant to decimate. They're in a straight line, basically beating the bushes and digging out anyone in front of them. Pat Caps is finally eliminated by Snakers, and that'll just leave Microfry and a hope. Never mind. Micro is going to go down to a nice shot from Snakers with the headshot, and now it's a 4v4 to determine who wins this. But Wildcard has the high ground, Cameron.
Yeah, Oath, I really like how they were able to sort of readjust their play once Exodus stole that ground from them. Snakers on their really good flank catching, I believe that was Microfry, unawares, opening this whole can of worms up. Exodus go out. 4 versus 4. Wildcard have the high ground, but they're not being as aggressive as one would hope. They did come to this one a little bit late. They might be lacking some crucial information to give them the confidence to go for it. And actually, they have 0 kills right now. They've kind of just stumbled and tripped into the end game. But I like Pentalo and the whole direction that Wildcard is moving. Perhaps they heard the vehicle rotate by Relo. If Penta can open this up onto a member of Oath, this could make it wide open for Wildcard to win this.
Relo moving up. We saw him check on his team's position. Pentalol around the side of the tree. Here's Relo moving. Got the crosshair lined up perfectly for when he reveals. Dude, bad time to pull a grenade out. Relo goes down to Pentalol, but the trade is there as Wolf gets Penta down. Now he has to move forward. Balefrost going to try to get up for the res. Does toss out a nade to buy some time, but here comes Jazza. Wants to get the flush. Coming around the flank. Is it going to be enough? He sees him going for the res. Bale stands up. He turns, and he gets the burn. Jazza goes down. Partner calls for the flush. Goes back to try to stick the res yet again. Sharp shot goes down to Wolf. In the meantime, Keenan is low and has to go down to get his heal, and that will be the end of him. And Oath gets a 13-kill win in back-to-back chicken dinners. Oath is magic, baby. Feels good.
That's just clinical. You cannot overstate how important it is in this game. I mean, in any FPS games, but especially this game, of just win your gunfight. Just win your gunfight. It's that easy. And that's what Oath did at the end there. Wildcard didn't really misplay that by any real stretch of the definition.
Yeah.
Yes, if they had more information earlier on, they could have been set up in a marginally better way. But of how they were coming into the circle, they did the best that they could with that. It's just Oath won every single gunfight. In fact, when Balefrost climbed off the revive to get Jazza, Jazza should have had a clear kill on him.
Yeah.
But Balefrost was watching for the potential flank and made use of it.
It was really well played. I'm glad to see Oath back in form. I was tempted to change my pick this morning, but I'm glad that I didn't because they came alive. And they're a team, though. This is what they do best. I think this random break in the middle of finals benefits teams like Oaths who can sort of reset, regroup, figure out what they were doing wrong, and come back strong. And I think we're going to see some of our more cerebral teams really thrive this weekend.
Yeah, I can see that.
Opinion.
I mean, it's only been 2 games.
Fair point.
not going to be able to see exactly how true that is until we see more, but this is a really good comeback for Oath and Sonics, two of the top teams that really should have been there from the very beginning, but it's good to see that neither of them have really gotten into their heads about it. I mean, they're all veteran players by at least a small extent. If they aren't a veteran themselves, they're at least like a high-level player, and they have veteran leadership. So it's good to see that they're able to utilize that and come back.
And you know what? We talked about, can they win with a circle that doesn't favor them at the start? They won on that side, so we'll see. Maybe it'll be military next time, and we can see if they can win there too. That said, let's go back to the desk and have them break down just how awesome or terrible that game was.
Well, there's nothing really much to talk about as far as awesome and terrible. Both are on display when Oath comes through with 43 points in 2 games. It's not like we haven't seen this before, though, Matcham.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was kind of my criticism moving at the beginning of the day, is that Oath has had giant spike days. Now, the question comes into play of whenever we saw them have their spikes, they win a lot of games in that day. Are we going to continue to see this, or is somebody going to manage to do something to pump the brakes on it? I mean, we got Snakers with 5 kills, Wolf with 5 kills, Balefrost 3. That spin back while they were trying to go for res in the end game and just being like, nope, you don't get to do that, is telling of the fact that they're starting to feel in their comfort zone again. They're starting to get on the move, and I'm willing to say that, sure, they're not having to rotate very far for the circle, but they're capable of playing the sections of the circle and then getting into exactly where they want to win the game at.
Gotta say, I was really impressed by the flank from Snakers to go uphill to take advantage of Exodus when Exodus had probably the better position, and somehow Exodus just manages to let Snakers get up on there. Hypoc, what kind of stuck out to you from that one?
Well, I mean, the setup from Oath was just generally better. Again, you saw Penta in this really nice position to kind of get the down initially to open that fight up. And unfortunately, obviously, Balefrost was actually stacked up. Oath were playing like a 2-2 split. So they had somebody there for the trade, and unfortunately, Penta gets the down. There's no value off it. Jazz is too far away to obviously capitalize on it. So really nice turnaround from Bale nonetheless. This was one of my favorite moments of the match. Yeah, I wanted Mime to drive forward so badly into that smoke. But,
I'll vouch for it. You were screaming while we were watching it.
You were screaming. Indeed.
Dude,
just
Grizzly would have been flat inside the smoke. But,
yeah, this is what I was talking about. I mean, the Exodus was looking really, really nice. I mean, they ended up with 10 kills.
Sorry.
Yeah, that was just ridiculous.
What was
Pat, that? Pat just like immediately got the call out and just quick scoped the guy out of this world. I don't know.
Did I miss that during the games, or
yeah.
we didn't see that during the games?
I don't remember actually seeing that, but that was
insane.
That was actually nuts.
Yeah,
we're gonna have to
nuts.
We're gonna have to see if we can pull that one up again from Pat Cap's perspective.
Yeah, in super slow mo, please.
That was ridiculous. I mean, you don't get those quick scopes that often.
I did want to point out something that kind of struck me as peculiar inside of this. Wildcard walks away in second place with no kills.
0
When
kills.
was the last time you saw a Wildcard with no kills, especially in the late game? Meanwhile, on the other side of this, Exodus have been needing some points, let's be real. Pat Caps, with an amazing shot we saw just a second ago, stepping up, getting 5 for his team. Microfry stepping up and getting 4 in there. I love my son Drassel, but only walked away with 1 inside of that round. I don't know. Like, it felt like to me, Wildcard had a lot of really good positioning and then just capitalize off of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that you called out right at the beginning, right, Hypoc?
Yeah, I was just about to say, those kind of North Pachinki circles, I love that flat top position. They took a 2-2 split across that and Grandma's house in the field. Unfortunately, I don't think they saw a lot of traffic because of the nature of those hardships, right? Everybody was trying to wrap edge. Nobody was really looking to contest that area of the map. As we do have the leaderboards here, obviously we can see Wildcard picking themselves up the 6th placement point. Actually, ironically enough, 303 actually doing the complete opposite of that, no placement. And 6th, that's your 4th and 5th place teams for this, but not a lot of points spread throughout this, I'll be honest, as everybody putting at least 1 on the board, but you can just see the gap at the top there. Exodus obviously taking away 15 and Oath picking up 13 kills and the win for 23.
Do you think that's a little bit of a byproduct of the kind of the crazy hard shifts that we saw? I mean, we went hard all the way to the east and then went hard all the way to the west in the very next circle.
And then the circle
so,
after that, we went all the way to the north. Like there was
exactly.
3 hard shifts in a row going from circles 4, 5, and 6, and that is so hard to try to figure out if you're an IGL. Where do you go next?
Well, so it kind of relies. That's where a little bit of good fortune goes pretty far there.
Yeah,
as Oath found themselves right in a great position, and they got the circle every time, right?
I was going to say, just on top of that, it becomes less about reading the circle and actually kind of predicting teams' tendencies. If you see those back-to-back hard shrinks, it's not about thinking what position is good. It's more, if you're not in the center, you got to think about what teams are you expecting to wrap the same edge as you and where they're going to be passing through. So it does create a really interesting dynamic. It's no real surprise here. We see Wolf Snakers and Bale.
Yeah.
Maybe a bit of a surprise we don't see Relo in there because he's been the star player for a number of weeks. We've seen him come out clutch in games, but good to see Wolf topping that. I know he gets a lot of flack as the old wizard, the old wise man of the roster. So good to see him topping the damage there.
Yeah.
Overall, I mean, you'd sound like a bit of an idiot if you wrote Oath off today, right?
I mean, look.
Nobody did that. Nobody did that in the pregame segment. Thank God. So.
Why you gotta be like that?
Well, all I'm saying
Nobody
is
said Oath is done, as
Dude,
washed, right?
I didn't
All
say
I'm-
they were done.
All I'm saying, well, I said it. That's why
might
I put it out there.
I was
all I'm
with
saying
you. We're
is,
together in this.
Last time we saw Oath go back-to-back 3 times, they dropped 2 0-point games on Miramar. I'm just leaving that out there. I'm putting it out there. We'll see how
Just
it
for
goes.
whoever wants it. Just for whoever wants it over there, right?
Well, I mean, we still got one more on Angle.
Look at the Zenith. It's going to be Roth up at the top of that. Shoots a kill, being very active in the last 2 days, but you can see it looks like we're going to potentially see a couple people coming after that as Unciv sitting on 20. Supernova and Pat Caps now at 20 apiece. I wonder how many of those 20 kills that Pat Caps got were just instant spin one taps to somebody's head.
It kind of makes you wonder now. I mean, we've seen Pat Caps pull off some pretty nutty maneuvers, but that one was a thing of beauty for sure. But Roth has a kind of a death grip on this top 5 on kills, even though it's only a three kill lead, but he's been holding on to it pretty well. It's Chubba once again in the damage top 5. We saw Hard Shifts pull off. There was a really interesting fight there on the west coast, west side of the circle in the first circle that we not going to get a lot of time to talk about, but it was kind of like a 3-4 way fight between I think Hard Shifts and STK, Any Trolls in the chat, and Fabled, and it was I think Chubba ended up getting a lot of that damage down in that one. But yeah, yet again, I mean, the Hard Shifts, I definitely feel like had a heavy influence in that game, and kind of what you were talking about. Oath was the beneficiary, but also the intelligence to play it from the spot that they did and to put themselves in a position where they could do that, predicting other teams' movements and capitalizing on that. Whereas Wildcard, they get the great position, they have compounds, they have circle all the way to the end, but 0 kills. So that's just kind of the name of the game, right?
There's a secondary beneficiary inside of that, as Oath is now moved up into 4th place, tied on overall points with the Houston Hard Shifts, but ahead of them because 1 more kill. And so we're slowly seeing Hard Shifts. They had a pretty decent first game, if I remember correctly, but
yes,
they're just slowly starting to fade back down off of this, where I thought that they were going to be climbing today, but it's just due to the amount of points that Oath is just nomming up from everybody else.
Well, we've seen this happen multiple times now, Hypoc, haven't we? Where we seem to get one of these teams that just goes off and just blows everybody else out of the water in one day. Is that what's going to happen today, do you think, with Oath?
I mean, there's still a lot to play for. I think obviously Oath are a very explosive team. We've seen that in the past. We always talk about them going back to back, and always, but pretty much every win they get, it's usually with at least 10 kills. Sorry. So you're looking at 20-point games for their good games, and then the other times it's kind of middle of the pack. And I think a team like Hard Shifts, they're the ones that even if they go out in 8th or something, they're still putting kind of 5 to 8 points on the board. So. Again, it's just the nature of the game. Of the Oath, I see as we talk about teams being feast or famine. That's definitely one of them. So them kind of climbing this much in the first 2 games, maybe not too much of a worry, in my eyes at least.
Well, we'll have to see. We've got a few teams that are looking good so far today, but our number 1 team, only 2 points on the day so far. We'll have to see if they can turn that around. Toffees, Cameron, take us into Game 3, boys.
Thanks, guys. I believe in STK. What do you think, Cameron?
I think I do too. There are if you're a thinking man, you could look at genuine reasons for why both those first 2 games didn't go their way, and it's not like they threw a very specific game. But coming into the last part, the second half of a tournament, and seeing them struggle 2 rounds in a row makes one worry just a little bit. Hopefully they can get it together and have at least one good Erangel game before they go over to Miramar.
Full disclosure, they were my first coupon spend, so I truly believe that they will win this unless Oath does it, because they're my pick. All right, let's talk about it. So here's an interesting thing, Cameron. We talked at the end of last game. The only circle that Oath hasn't gotten proven they can win today is military. Apparently, they're buying into the fact that this is going to be a military circle.
It's also because the Milta Power
is inaccessible.
Awful to get here from this plane path. So I'm not surprised at all to see them. I'm surprised I don't see more try and go onto Sosnovka Island after that plane path. But we're gonna see where the first circle is. Do we actually get a military?
I mean, with
today?
that plane path, it is a decent likelihood. So we'll see
be.
if that one happens to come out. Guys, it is day 3 of the PUBG Continental Series Finals. We're on the 3rd match of the day, our last Erangel. And I got to be honest, I am having a blast covering these matches. They have been a tough.
Baited. Straight baited.
Wow.
Hey, Zarky. Hey, we could get a Zarky ending though. Okay, let's not be disappointed. It's actually good that we finally get a day that we don't see a military circle. I don't think that's ever happened at all this entire PCS, or at least the days that I was working, because those are the only ones that I care about.
I like that you got
but
so
we actually
excited.
could get a Zarky ending.
You got so excited you had to then say to yourself, like, tell us, but let's not get disappointed in this situation. Like, it's so rare that we see it finish sort of up in this area, and the chances of it happening, it's exciting. Teams like ATC have to be ecstatic because, let's be honest, North Georgia Pole is not the easiest place to rotate out of most of the time. So they're going to have a lot of extra sort of time to get their stuff done up here. So ATC could have themselves a good game as we'll check in with their looting to kick this thing off. But the reality is we need some of our top teams that haven't been performing to turn things around. Just across the bay from ATC is STK. They were the winners. Their top players, they were leading the damage charts, the performance charts. They had 13 points coming into play today. And now what? What is happening to STK, Cameron?
They're just not winning the fights that they need to.
Ain't that the truth?
On the first game, awful rotate into a southern shift. You get pushing up that hill is bad enough, even when you don't have a hard shift away from you and having to then push up that hill. And it doesn't hurt that they got into an early fight with, I believe it was Fabled. The second game, it was strictly because, again, a hard shift away from them. They found themselves in the middle of a bunch of other teams coming in from the same direction, same traffic jam. And I believe the decision to revive Civil or leave him took just a little bit too long. If they immediately jumped on the position to either let's take this fight and revive him or let's leave him be and retreat, I think they would have done a lot better, but they swung too far between both decisions, it looked like, from my end.
Yeah, and I think that they've got a great coach in Gunner. I just hope that being that they're all playing from home and sort of working from home, he's able to still get them together and rally them up, because it's a team that does well when they sort of get those pep talks, but not having it in person, maybe that's a little bit of a tougher situation for teams that do depend on that. Zenith has also been on the climb today. They're putting in some good work at 95. Fable still holding a very respectable point amount at 94, but Oath at 92 and the Sonics at 83. Those are two teams that were in the conversation, but not nearly as heavily as they are now.
I mean, Oath wasn't in the conversation outside of where the hell are Oath? And, well, here they are. 2 wins. What was it, 44 points maybe? Between 2 games. They're now in 4th place. 2 points behind 3rd. 3 points behind 2nd. Just look at how close 2nd through 5th all is. It is, I think, anyone's game at this point, especially if SDK continue to struggle today on Erangel.
Yep, they showed up with 49 points, I think, is where they came in today. So big pickup. And yes, we'll be talking about Oath a lot for now. That said, I think people pointed out Miramar may not be their best map. So the next 2 after this could be rough for the guys from Oath. So they need to pick up as many points as they can, especially on this last run. The problem is this is about as far a rotation as they could have asked for, being if they landed on military base, Cameron.
Yeah, actually, now that you mention it, I wouldn't be surprised to see them stack up on gas tanks and try and boat their way up. The last time we saw a team try and use the boats was actually pretty good. I don't remember who it was. I just remember it.
But the time before that was Luminosity, and it went horribly.
That was like 3 years ago. That was 3 years ago. That doesn't count anymore.
I was trying to throw back for the old hardcore fans. God,
Yeah,
that was a debacle of a rotation. On my list of worst rotations of all time, I think that's up in like the top. I'll say one because I don't want to have to list more.
It wouldn't have been that bad if they just didn't run out of gas when
Right?
they did.
And they couldn't get out. That was good times. I miss fun times in the old days. All right, let's look at the top of Everest as Zenith has gotten to the top. No pun intended. They just went up there. And now they're going to rotate back down towards the bridge. Nice little scout and play as we watch Kick's mastery of the buggy.
A number of teams have actually made their way into the circle already. And Nade, well, he's made his way onto the kill feed, getting the first kill of the round. The vehicles continue to roll away from him. I'm assuming that was McCoy's vehicle that he just got knocked out of. But either way, good for Elusive here. Coming in from Asnaya, they're not going to stick around here. It's not even in the circle. And if it were, it'd be just barely on the east side. So they're going to continue to push up, maybe take no lean and go even further. But hey, getting a kill on your rotation, not bad.
Not bad. All right. No lean, by the way, is that little town just north of Low Street, across the water, in case you might not know that. Later on his rotations, he takes fire from ATC, firing down on him as he tries to make that cross. Always terrified when I get shot at in a buggy, Cameron, because once that back tire is out, things are just spinning out of control.
Yeah, you basically spin like a Beyblade, is what
no.
it is. What happened here? I think Ice Tech got a drop onto Landoon, but then 303 traded onto him.
I choose to believe that they both seat swapped each other in a jousting competition of epic proportions.
And knocked each other? I could see that.
Yes. Yep. It happens.
You don't really see it, but it's actually possible for two players to knock each other in this game.
I mean, we're 100% conjecturing what happened there.
We have zero clue.
But that could have been it, and it would have been cool. Meanwhile, Beams gets a headshot on Victor. You can't prove anything. I look forward to the highlight coming out later. Beams crossing the road. William taking some shots from behind. T8 has had a bit of a struggle today, though we saw some epic plays from William in the last match. Very close to this same position.
Yeah, I mean, Tactical 8, their fighting isn't awful. They just never seem to win the fights.
What is this
at the end
rotation?
of things, but they tried to go back across the river. I think because there's a team that's holding down Cube. Hardships are holding down the interesting wide Cube split. But then there's who is that? Comets holding out just outside of Rozak. Now they got to go away. This is again Tactical 8. I feel what happens every single time, at least the grand finals, is that they just are never allowed to find a solid position, whether that means that they need to rotate faster or just be a lot more decisive and efficient with their full-on fights.
I'll just say,
crack a couple of heads.
That rotation about summed up what we've been seeing from Tactical 8. It wasn't a bad idea. Didn't work out, and then I saw all three of them stuck in a bad spot. They managed to get out of it. It is what it is. But now Supernova has eyes on Grizzly. Tactical 8 just can't find a place to call home. Everywhere they try to go, someone seems to be waiting for them. Nades out. Grizz in some trouble. Long bounce, though, so he should be okay. New Nades not going to get that kill, and Supernova decides to back just a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know if Grizzly spotted his retreat. He's checking up on the high ground just to make sure that he's not going to get caught from a separate angle. Finds an opportunity, gets back into the vehicle, and retreats away. But again, all 18 HP, and Tactical 8 still cannot find a position to hold out in.
Sliding around, he's going to have to jump out of there and take the fight, most likely. Let's see the next circle. Zarky still potentially in play as that shift could go north, so Cameron may get his dream. STK has made it across the river. ATC actually moved out of North Georgia Pole, and STK capitalized on that timing to get themselves up to new compound north of North George. So they're actually in a pretty good spot for the rest of this game because of that.
The chances of this game ending in the actual city of Zarky is very, very slim, but that Zarky field just to the southeast, that's where it's going to end. Unless we see a hard shift down towards the south on this next phase, it is very much going to end in that field. Could be on the south part of the field, could be the north part, doesn't matter. But I love that field so much. We see so many good fights that happen there.
Ooh. I'm not sure if we'll see a hard shift to the south, but we will see the hard shifts on the kill feed as they go head-to-head with the Sonics off in the distance. So we'll keep an eye on how this turns out as we see the hard shifts trying to enter the garage building. Hwin holds the door, but does take a ton of damage. Jumps and bobs, but it's not going to happen as J-Sank comes in and Hwin goes down. But that's not it. Mime now wants to make his play, pushes up with the teammate. They get the return on Lobes. And note, neither of these teams are going to be really happy with the outcome right now as everyone's taking mass casualties. Nice play. Profi pushes out, but goes down to Chuba as the hard shifts seem to be pushing the win. Shrimzy trying to make the hold.
Shrimzy trying to go actually through the vehicle for a quick moment to try and catch them off guard, but it doesn't happen. That flank around the side works wonders for hard shifts, but unfortunately they're still not out of it. Jazza finds an angle to secure.
Yoinks him.
He gets a knock on a J-Sank, steals the Miluk kill. At least J-Sank, I think, was able to make his way inside to allow for the revive, but it looked like a much better one fight for half a second before Jazza stuck his nose into other people's business.
Exactly. The hard shifts was like, huh, we came out of this in one piece. And then Wildcard gets involved. Down they go. Liberate crosses the river slow and low through the water. Let's check in with the Comets as they try to drag themselves up into the circle. They got a decent little spot, but it's going to be edge play. So they're going to have to adjust as this thing continues forward. Exodus can be between them and Success. Elusive making their rotation as Uncivil is coming in as well. He ditches the car, and Alo and he are going to be in for a fight in the fields.
Check to the north. Actually, the other two players of SDK are all the way on the north side of this field, so this could be a nice sandwich, a nice elusive sandwich, but T-Sock gets the drop onto Uncivil.
Civ got too aggressive. Alo is low. He's trying to hold the spray. He gets one. He gets it. What? That's two. They're down. Kickstart gets another one from the distance. Zenith assists, and Alo holds the line.
SDK do lose one. They do lose, I believe that was Uncivil in the field.
Yes.
But they still get a couple of kills off of that. I believe it was only two. Not as good as I think it looked like for a quick second there. But Comets, what happened here?
Well, the Comets tried to rotate to this spot, and Illusion was waiting for them. And then they died.
And they died in a matter of 2 seconds. I mean, Top Dog does get taken by Microfry. So it's still, and Ranger also gets dropped as well. So suddenly, what looked to be, another celebration of a fight gets turned sour in a matter of moments.
When Exodus took that high ground, that position sort of blocking Illusion's rotation out, they were forced back into the spot. It's going to be nice for Illusion. I think they got some bonus kills because of that crash, because I don't know how much deeper Illusion's going to be able to go. Actually, that circle might work for them. Now that I look at it, they can ride the coastline, maybe.
Yeah, it was a shift heavy towards the north. This one might actually go all the way to Zarky. Granted, we're going to have the hard shift towards the northwest, but STK, they have the winning position. I don't care that they're down to 3. This is the game that they needed to come back. If they don't place, even if they don't win, I expect high placement from that compound, from that position. But Exodus, they're bombing in onto Illusion. They want to secure these kills.
I don't need no bike no more. It's go time, he says as he jumps off. Drassel making the push. Illusion's inside. He heard the footsteps. He goes around the back, trying to find him, looking through the doorway. It's a back and forth. Hey, Drassel. It does not win the fight. Icy Flex gets the flush, and now Microfry is going to push forward the Rage Incarnate as he's going to go in there and maybe dig out Icy. It's a little harder to want to go in there and dig someone out, though, after they just dropped Drassel.
Yeah, and Taylor J is not helping them out either. Exodus, they don't want to be taking these isolated 1v1 fights because that just gives the other player an opportunity to get it down and a full kill with 0 chance for trade. And that's what's happening for both Exodus and Illusion right now. Both teams have 2 players stuck in 1v1s. That is, if Fable don't find a third-party angle to take out Icy Flex or Microfry because they're trying for it.
Yep, Microfry is going to be down by the car. For me, please, was knocked. So Icy Flex is the last member of Illusion that is standing. TJ managed to get Free Me down so he can actually turn his attention to try to add a little bit of aid and maybe come back towards Micro, who really wants to just get rid of Icy Flex. He needs to be able to push that ridge line. You can't until Icy is dead.
It doesn't matter, though, because Fable are going to make their life very, very difficult either way. But it's still a kill that Microfry wants to secure, but he can't push inside. It's way too risky to go actually inside the building. He's shooting to try and bait a peek out from Icy Flex, but Icy's just going to hold it. He's not going to take the bait. He's going to wait for the blue to come in and maybe manage something.
It's a cute Molly. Goes in, it's a Red Bull. Here we go. He was waiting for it. Microfry knew that that's what he was going to be waiting for, so he tries to make the bait play. He gets it, but the blue damage, he does survive. Will Fabled make him pay? He does. Greg Shot takes him out as you predicted, but a sick play by Microfry to bait him out with the car and then manage to somehow jump out and get the kill. That was awesome.
That was really good play by Microfry there
Slick.
at the end. Unfortunately, it just happened a little bit too late because the blue made the decision-making process really bad. But Fabled, they didn't actually stick all 4 holding that angle. They actually sent 2 ahead into the circle to grab position. So they are still playing very, very well, even if it's not outrageous kill numbers just yet.
Yeah, Fable is playing smart PUBG, and I'm digging in what I'm seeing from them. STK, no freaking way. Gets the circle again in a compound that is a very good one. It's got a lot of good windows, a pretty good hold position. This should guarantee them, I would say, I don't say easily, but probably top 5, if not the win.
I mean, they have to.
They have to.
The only danger is that they might not get that many kills because no one's going to be going near that compound. That's the only real concern, but if they can farm placements, I don't think they'll be too upset with that.
They have more kill points total, I think, than any other team in the tournament right now, right? So as long as they get a good placement round, they secure their position in sort of this emerging new ruling group. As Hardships, by the way, has gotten to 97 points since we last checked in. They are down to 1 player, but this is the Hardships I thought I was going to see when PCS1 started. All right? In fact, Charity. This is a team that should be a top 3 team that is finally emerging from sort of the cocoon and is thriving, and I love to see it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they're down to 1 person right now, so they might not be able to climb up too much higher, but still, this is... They've always, them and Wildcard and even Zenith in a way have always kind of been the little brother of the top dogs, but Sharp Shot spots out a member of Oath, but it wasn't Wolf didn't spot him. What? Okay,
Wildcard
does happen. Jazza finds 1. Sharp Shot, he's going to go for a second.
Jazza gets some vengeance and Sharp Shot on Balefrost to turn around from the last game where Wildcard suffered at the hands of Oath. Jazza does make a nice play. McCoy pops Grizzly elsewhere on the map as Oath tries to push forward. Keenan going for the flank on the downhill as Sharp Shot keeps their attention to the high ground. Snakers decides to just fall on back to grab himself a vehicle and make a move. And I think they may just abandon ship as fast as possible. Snakers heading out but taking fire. Relo left alone at the tower, grabs the motorcycle and tries to vamos.
I like the call from Oath to pull out, but the question is, where exactly are they going to go? Wildcard are immediately backfilling onto this position, taking the tower. Sure, it's on the edge, but they might be able to find a couple of kills using that high ground. Tactical 8, unfortunately, do go out in 12th place, so another unfortunate round for them.
Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Tactical 8 has had a very tough week. Oh, well. Let's jump back to Snakers and Reload, the last 2 remaining members of Oath, as they try to hunker down and salvage a very tough rotation from them. Remember, they came all the way from military to get here eventually, so they've been on the struggle bus just a little bit. Radiance is going to push up to the red house just outside of Georgia Pole. On the edge of the circle, they may have a little bit of difficulty dealing with Liberate, as they seem to have the high ground and are looking for teams specifically that are coming out of Georgia. Ooh, nice opening fire.
Couple of tags back and forth between Radiance and Liberate here. This is not a good fight for either, because they're both going to have to move. This is a marginal advantage for Liberate because of the road, but they're going to only have a couple of extra moments before Radiance, and they're going to have to move. This is assuming they don't get a hardship in their favor, but the chances of that happening are very, very slim.
Very, very slim. At this point, I think you're looking for points, maybe some extra kill stuff on the board. Remember, you win tournaments in the games that you don't get the circle, you don't do well, sort of when you make up the difference. STK does actually, this is not a bad time to get the shift to give you an edge, right? Like, right now, they can lock it up, they control this side of the circle, and then move across the road when the time is right. So STK in a pretty good spot. Wildcard not going to be forced to push down onto Oath. So Oath probably can play a little low and slow right now and let WC play guard duty.
But the problem with STK's compound, as I mentioned, is that no one's going to go towards them. You're right in the sense that now if they were dead center and they had to watch 360 angle, that would be a little rough. But 303... they weren't going towards that compound. In fact, they were looping back up clockwise to go away from that compound because of how strong it is. So STK, they actually might have just lost center position and not get a couple of any kill points out of it. Look at 3-3 right now, coming across, gonna be sneaking up and finding
I've got a
Taylor
proposal
J.
for you, Taylor J. Wait, no, TJ heard him. TJ's looking. D-Rich coming over the hill. Doesn't see the snake in the grass. Opens fire. Gets him. Nice kill on TJ.
Taylor, that should have been a free kill for Exodus, but instead it's going to be the second kill for 303. A little quieter for the number boys. But I think they've wanted to play a smart macro game when it's a weird, wild circle like this one. You can't take that away from them.
Is that their official nickname, the Number Boys?
I don't know.
I don't mind
Just
it.
coming up with random stuff.
I'll play with it. We can try it out a few times, see how it vibes.
Yeah, we'll workshop it.
It's better than the Bobs.
I like that one. What do you mean?
I know, right? All right, Rod hiding behind a car here with the smokes
Always gotta
all
one-up
around.
me.
What'd you say?
Always got to one-up me.
Radiance looking for Zed. Across the road, we got Liberate as it's not even an intersection. This turd has become a bit of a palava as everyone tries to find themselves a little something to call home. McCoy using every smoke that spawned in the game to try and buy himself a position to go forward here.
Watch Lush. Radiance, they actually moved away from the fight against Liberate, but because of that, Lush is just going to be able to sneak up behind them and could catch them completely unawares. This could be big brain by the Liberate boys, or at least in Lush. That is, if he can get a knock or two.
Fabled out in 10th place. That's good for everybody behind 3rd place. Zen is looking towards Radiance. Lush does have a good angle. Waldo goes down to Sharp Shot. He's not even in this fight, but they're getting involved. They drop McCoy and Waldo. Sharp Shot and Wildcard from the high ground is actually opening the door for Zenith.
They're also just picking up points for themselves. That shift
Heck
towards the east helped Wildcard more than anyone else. Let's see if they're still watching. They're still looking. They don't want to give this away. They know there's at least one Radiance member left, and that's even before accounting for Lush. But they hear the push. Battilo finds one, immediately taken out by Adden. Adden going to continue to push and try and flush out Zenith from this position.
It goes Flash, gets the burn down. Now he tries to push forward. He knows Liberate's out here. They've got the advantage because they're spread out. Headshots coming in, though. Chuba does knock Guabi. So Guabi goes down, and the hardships are now adding aid to Zenith as they start to put some work into Liberate, who is getting ready to push them. Sharp Shot does get Mystery, so no one's really helping Zenith. Zenith is just in an island of death and destruction and basically biding their time till elimination. I don't see a lot of survival options for them right now.
No, but I don't see a lot of survival options for really anyone because of Wildcard. Yes, the circle did center up and pulls away from them, but they still have a good minute or two to pick up kills. They get Snakers. That's another one that they're putting in their pocket. They are just this is a shooting gallery for Wildcard.
Wildcard's getting
big game
banked.
for them.
Yes, it is. Whether or not they win, they're going to walk away with some big numbers that they can add to that leaderboard. And look at them. They're continuing to climb up in 6th place right now. They do have a knock, but that res should be doable for them. Oath down to 1. Hardships down to none as they're eliminated in that moment. Lush does come forward and catches Chuba as Liberate has been tenacious, to say the least, in this part of the game. Here we go. STK. Across the road, ATC seems to be setting up a block for them. Luke had to use the blue to try to make his way around here. I mean, they shouldn't have this much trouble with ATC right now.
They shouldn't. ATC are able to use... It's a little bit of a decline that they're chilling on, so they can use that ridge to peek as well as the rock. And SDK, they just don't want to give up any control. They like the spread in the compound from multiple angles. But yeah, Luke's not able to find anything. He's coming in. The Uber has arrived, or maybe he's just leapfrogging from building to building.
No, we've been there. When you call your Uber, then he jumps out. He's like, I gotta use the bathroom, man. You got to stand there and wait while he takes care of jumping around on the roofs.
Hey, can I have one of those beers? Let me pregame with you.
Been there and welcome it. All right, ATC is going to hold the corner as SDK does move a little bit away from them. Wildcard has gone down to the hole that Snakers was previously occupying, and between the smokes and the defilade that Snakers so deftly was using, they actually have a really nice fortification that should allow them to pick up a few more kills. They're already at 7 and in a pretty good spot in this match with 4 up. Zen across the field, hoping to close the play. They do manage to survive with 3 after a crazy fight down there in the fields. They seem to be the survivors. That said, though, Roth is down and out as Luke and Keenan join forces to take Zen down to 2.
I love this by Honey Badger. 303 got a knock or two onto Wildcard, and yeah, haven't secured a full kill. But Wildcard are pushing down into the circle, and this is allowing Honey Badger to flank up. He gets an immediate drop onto Penta, trying to go for a second. No, Mero does not allow it. Immediately drops him in return, helping Wildcard out.
Yeah.
And actually, Keenan's going to secure that kill, so that's another point, just leaving the two remaining Bob players up on the north side.
One of those moments where at the end of the game, if Wildcard comes out on top, Mero's going to look back and be like, I wonder if I hadn't taken that shot, how much damage could he have done to that team? But you got to go for the kills. He did the right thing, got the knock. Unfortunately, it got stolen. Wildcard puts yet another point in the hopper as they smoke themselves into the wheat field, and we'll lock it in. Kickstart gets Mero down, actually. So he drops, and Sharpshot goes ahead and takes out Leda. So Wildcard continuing to fill up that point hopper. Meanwhile, Luke 12 takes Marsalek from the other side, and ATC is just getting collapsed on.
Yeah, they need to be doing a lot better job of dealing damage in order to open up a rotational position, because they have to cross a road, and it's a ditch on the other side that anyone can be hiding in. In this moment, it's going to be Zenith. My question is, can Lush continue to be a wild card into this? Oath does go out, and it's going to be at the end of all of this wild card. They get all 4 of those kills, and they are now up to 10. And Aguila force out into the blue. I say that because he's grabbing his vehicle, but that's still a lot of damage that he's been accruing.
So he's going to drive along the line and hopefully try to get to a spot behind the road. No one's there, so it might actually work out for him. Let's check in with Keenan as he's looking for Kickstart. Oh, goes for the spray, but can't do it. Kickstart gets him down. Pantalol gets the return, though, and should be able to get the res.
Yeah, a good immediate trade.
Yeah.
But Aguila and Lush on the west side. Lush does find Aguila, gets him out. But I will say, it doesn't actually matter because the blue took out Lush. So that's at least it's one final point for Liberate. But now it's going to be STK, 303, and Wildcard. And it's only one member of 303 remaining. Shoot to kill, know exactly where he is. It's just down this strip, peeking into all of the hedges.
Alo and the rest of STK trying to hunt out Voxic, the last man standing from the Bob squad, as they hope and pray. Voxic was just looking to maybe get another placement point out of this. He doesn't seem like he's going too aggressive, but he may spot Purdy. If he can get the knock and flush, it would be a nice extra pickup for them to get their hands on right now. So they do have to be very careful. Vox definitely has the potential to do it, but Purdy spots him out. 303 will be eliminated, setting up the stage for, I believe it is a 3v4 to wrap this one up, Cameron.
Yep. Wildcard might have the man advantage, but positional
STK
advantage is in the way of STK. The second that they got the final 303 player, you saw Alo and Luke get positioned back towards the west side. They didn't all just run to pick up that loot. They're leaving Purdy Curry to find all the grenades that he can pick up. They should know where Wildcard are positioning. There are very clearly defined valleys in this sort of field. It's almost like a World War I battlefield at this moment.
I see your point there with the trenches and all that good stuff. That said, STK we talked about this early on. They got a good position. They made their way there very quickly, and they knew they wouldn't get a ton of kills. They do have 6, though, which is already a respectable score. If they win this, they bump that up above 10, actually to 10, and that becomes a very nice number. So hiding in that compound didn't hurt them too much. The question is, will they be able to put it together? Wildcard is definitely hot, Cameron. They've been getting kill after kill, pushing and fighting nonstop, so they're coming in with that momentum advantage.
Problem is, the center position is going to be just marginally towards STK, which means that Wildcard need to go into the open field before STK does. But Pentalol, he says, I'll take this challenge. He drops Alo, immediately kills him, makes it a 2 versus 4. Shoot to kill. Their position has been very quickly eroded, not even slowly. The nades are coming in as well. It's Wildcard are on fire.
Purdy Curdy, the best mustache in PUBG, and Luke 12, the wonder from down under, facing off against a 4-man onslaught. The Wild Cards, as they get very aggressive, they slide to the right side, moving as a unit, looking to lock up a win and some very big points. They're currently in 5th place with their eyes set on the leader. 11 kills in the hopper, I think actually 12 now. Knocking out STK would give them a very, very big win and a huge push up into striking distance of STK. WC can feel the gravity of the situation. You can see it in the way that they're playing. Purdy keeping a cool head, though, as he looks for these peaks.
He's waiting for Wildcard to do something, but Wildcard, despite having a man advantage, a heavy man advantage, are not going to throw this away. They're going to take the slow, take it simple. They're sticking as pairs so that they are at least able to trade if SDK are able to get the drop on one of them.
SDK, not a lot of smokes left. They've been very effectively using one smoke at a time to maintain their position. Wildcard knows exactly where they are based on the smokes, but they can't get into there at the moment. You do see the nade coming out. The mollies, they were waiting for the blue to start to close and flush Purdy out of his little hole, and now the smokes and things are going to start to come out from WC. They've been saving them for this moment. They know the hill is about to be crested. They want to have positional advantage. Keenan moves forward with the barrel, opens fire. Luke 12 managed to dodges a few bits of lead, but the movement is forward. Purdy has smokes. Luke does not. Luke pays the iron price, and now Keenan starts the push. Purdy versus 4. A bit of a prayer. Tosses the nade. Hopes for the best. Not a lot of options. He goes into the last smoke pile available to him. The other players run right past him. He would have heard it, but he is going to hear the end of his game. 14 kills for Wildcard, Cameron, as they come away with a blistering win.
Yeah, very, very good for them. You can tell that they were not happy with how the fight against Oath last game went at the very end. Not only do they remove Oath, they also win the entire game. 24 points for themselves.
Wowza.
They are, I believe, tied. I saw at the very end, tied with Fabled for second place behind SDK, who, granted, this was finally a good game for SDK as well, but Wildcard. I was saying in the game that they were kind of, or at least I think I started to before a fight broke out, that they were kind of considered almost a little brother of the 3 top dogs during the regular season of the league. They don't like that anymore. They want to be the top dogs.
Wildcards and Houston Hardships are 2 teams that have been hovering around this position, right? They started today in 4th and 5th, but they haven't been getting a lot of talk. They haven't been getting a lot of love because they've been playing this sort of consistent style of PUBG, and I think that time has changed. That's all we've talked about, right? Hardships, Oath, and Wildcard have come out blazing today. Houston Hardships have had a really good game. We've seen them in fight after fight after fight. Wildcard, again, making another amazing round that's going to push them up, like you said, to be tied with Fabled. But we're going to Miramar. It changes a lot of things for these teams, Cameron, potentially.
It does. It does. And it actually changes, for more than anyone else, it changes a lot of things for Oath. We know that they have a tendency to underperform on Miramar when you compare it to Erangel. Hypuck already said it on the desk. Like, they could drop 2 donuts in a row. They could get 2 0-point games. And sure, they still won Charity. They still placed very highly in PCS. But when you're coming in from 12th place at the start of the day, you don't want to have any 0-point games to play catch-up with.
No donuts. That said, we've talked enough. Let's send it over to the analysts who will actually break down the game, the brains behind it. Let's head over to Poro and the guys to chat that one out.
And we're getting into the thick of things now. No silly throws to be found as we are getting serious as Wildcard comes in with a big 14-kill win here in game number 3. A northeastern circle, Hypoc. Don't see those too often.
No, you don't. Only really in the final games of Northwestern. Yeah, I was gonna roll with it, but I wasn't gonna.
That's fine.
Yeah, it's I mean that's become like the stereotypical end game for any series we have. We obviously have the PL Phase 2. We were talking about it. Yeah, similar circle. IEM Katowice. I don't want to talk about it. Take a look at some of the highlights here, but yeah, just a game filled with kind of scrappy fighting all over. Really, there's not an awful lot to play. Once that Phase 3 posts, it's kind of just a dash to find the spot you can live the longest in. Surprised Wildcard managed to put as many points on the board as they did, to be honest with you. But again, it was just kind of slow circles to play through to endgame.
Well, see, I'm on the other side of that. Usually whenever you end up with a lot of these scrappy fights, I find that that's where Wildcard does best. Whenever everybody's kind of in a disadvantaged position, this is where these guys tend to thrive. Especially whenever we see them play like around Badlands, Plains, or in a situation like this where they're just having to run from dip and jump around. It feels like this is the strength of how their playstyle fits together. Shoot to Kill did manage to get the circle a couple of times and it came back over towards their direction, but it was Wildcard just sweeping along every edge of every circle that just racked up so many points for them.
Yeah, I mean, Shoot to Kill, we were talking about how the first 2 games didn't really go their way. They didn't really get much circle luck either, whereas Oath got a little bit of love. This time SDK gets it, and they managed to get to the end game, but only 6 kills. So you got to be figuring that they maybe would have liked some more off of that. It was a good 2-2 split that you noted at the first that STK was running with. And I was calling out the hills. I always think that the hills to the north of those Georgia Pole apartments are where it's at. And Wildcard took those. But as soon as the circle pulled away from them, I thought they were done. How did Wildcard manage to sweep from those hills all the way down across that wide open area, across that wide open field, and still keep 4 up? Hypoc, I have no clue.
I mean, when they started putting kills on the board, it was towards the end of Phase 3. And that's, again, where people are trying to make a mad dash to get in at that point. So I think they had a really, really important position in kind of cutting off a lot of rotations. And, again, it's not as if they were kind of early to Circle 1 and 2 either, really. They weren't in the best spot looking back at it. But, again, we saw things start when Jazzo got that first third party onto hard shift down to the flat top. And they kind of just pushed north from there and held a spot, like I said, where there was a lot of traffic. As you see here, the leaderboard's up on screen. Again, pretty widespread point distribution, actually. Again, everybody except Tactical 8 putting a point on the board, but only 3 teams over double digits, with 303 closing out the top 3 with 5 and 5.
Matchup. Oath and Sonics cooling off a little bit in that last Erangel game after coming in swinging pretty hard in the first 2. Is this a sign of things to come, or do you think that this is just their one off game before we head over to Miramar?
Well, we are moving over to Miramar, where Oath isn't the strongest. Cam was just talking about that. What I like about how we see this last game coming in on Erangel means the fact that this overall leaderboard should look pretty spicy. We have Wildcard Gaming getting a pretty decent amount of points there. We have Shoot to Kill getting a couple of points. Then we have teams like Oath, Sonics not walking away with a ton. So that means that we're going to end up with still probably having Shoot to Kill a pretty decent advantage, but then it's going to get really mixed up in those next couple, I would say almost 8 spots back behind them. No surprise, we got Wildcard walking away with Sharp Shot and Pencilol both getting 5 kills. Chubba continuing to impress. Every single time I think that, okay, something's going wrong for the hard shifts, somehow Chubba Bubba manages to set up some way to get points for his team. I almost want to feel like Chubba is the clutch master at this point.
Yeah, 5 kills seems to be the top of the line here at this point. We check in the damage from that game. Luke 12 finding himself up there in number 1. I'm sure the boys from Sonic's going to love to see that. Sharp Shot and Pentalol find their way into the top 5 as well. Kickstart and Chubba rounding that out. Some good damage there. Breaking at 1,000 is always a pretty impressive feat there, Hypoc.
It is, yeah, and do you know what? It's fantastic to see Luke doing it as well, because I don't want to call him out, but we've not seen him on the kills leaderboards. We've not seen him on the damage leaderboards for a couple of weeks now, to be honest with you, or a couple of match days, I should say. So maybe that's a really good, it's definitely a really good thing for Shoot to Kill this weekend. Maybe Luke's going to step up, find some form again, because we know it's been on Civil, Alo, and Kurt putting in the numbers. As we do see the total leaderboard here, 3 teams now over 100 points, but there's still a 28-point gap between Shoot to Kill and Zenith in second.
See, you got your eyes on that number 1 spot. I'm looking back at 100 and 100 tied. That's great. But then 99, 97, 94, that's what I want. It looks like we're going to be in for a phenomenal last day, as this is still staying pretty neck and neck. I would say almost all the way down to where we're looking at 10th place. Because, I mean, look, we've got 303 sitting at 78, and then back behind that 76, 74. We've been seeing a lot of these teams turn around 20-point games. I mean, if you're in 10th place right now, you can really move yourself all the way up to about 5th.
It's starting to feel like those 12 points that STK managed to pull out of that last round with that second place finish were huge in the grand scope of things here, keeping them with a 20-plus point lead. Here's our top 5 kills overall. Roth still holding strong to number 1, but Purdy Curdy right behind him. And then we got Chubba, Civ, and Supernova rounding out the top 5, all with 20 apiece. This is a close fight here. You think Purdy's got it?
I'm just still amazed that Purdy's up there. That's what's getting me. IGL, by the way. I guess Luke is pumping out the damage, and Purdy's like, thank you for the kill. I appreciate it.
I'm telling you, dude, Kurt's just absolutely just cleaning up the assists. That's all there is to it. Luke's putting in like the 90 damage. Kurt's throwing out a molly or a nade, and he's picking up the kill. No, I'm joking. Kurt's been playing really, really well. It's actually good to see Luke still holding within the top 5 overall damage. As I was just saying, we haven't seen him on too many of the match breakdown damage leaderboards. So it's good to see that he's still putting out overall the most damage. Again, this is no real surprise here. We've got 3 members of STK in here. Alo topping it, Chubba second, Uncivil in third, Roth fourth, and Kurt in fifth.
I mean, this a little kind of goes to show how good of a performance they had last week, doesn't it? I mean, when this is kind of them resting on the laurels.
Wait, wait. Luke 12 with the most assists. Maybe you're right, Hypoc. Maybe you're right.
We're just gonna start calling Purdy Curdy the custodian, huh? Just cleaning up everything. Everything else that everybody drops down for him. But yeah, I mean, this is, like I said, it's just kind of goes to show how good of a week they had last week. I mean, the first 2 games, like we said, only 2 points, and they were out very, very early. They did obviously turn things around here in game number 3 with that second place with 6 kills. But yeah, I mean, you wouldn't see 3 of them in the top of those top 5 of all those leaderboards had it not been for such a nutty performance that they pulled together last week. But we are heading back over to Miramar, so I'm going to ask y'all to put it on the line. You guys are going to be casting this. You're going to be bringing us home. Is STK a Miramar team still? Can they hold on to this lead? Can they expound upon that lead? Or will we see it slowly start to trickle away?
I'm trapped. I don't think I'm allowed to say yes to that because then that won't happen. Right?
That's why I kind of wanted you to go on paper. This is why.
You're setting a trap. You're setting a trap for me. I see it.
A little bit.
I don't believe that STK are a Miramar team anymore. Yeah. But I tell you who is a Miramar team and has proven it week in, week out, and that's Sonics. So I'm going to triple down now after doubling down earlier on the Sonics, and hopefully we're going to see them put up some insane points for the last 2 games.
That's what I like to see, man. This is why I like going to Vegas with you too. It's always entertaining, always exciting.
It's always entertaining to see me be wrong. Yeah, great part.
Oh, such a good friend. Such a good friend.
You know, and that's when we
last time we were there, I did actually really well.
You did, you did. Yeah. You actually did very well last time around. So we'll have to see if that luck continues going into these games. But yeah, I mean, Sonics, that last game, not great. You know, they've had a decent day so far with them along with Oath, but we'll have to see if they can pick things up on Miramar. But guys, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll do a little old switcheroo, and we'll head over to Miramar. Don't go anywhere. Well, hey, everybody. We are back once again from that short break. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Got a little soda, got a little snackies, a little something like that. Yeah? Okay. All right, we got 3 games in the book. We got 2 more to go here. But let's take a quick look and remind you of what our format is looking like as we cut over to that. Boom. There you go. You see we got 3 matches on Erangel already out of the way. We got 2 more on Miramar. And guys, this is where it's going to start getting a little bit spicy because we only have 1 day left. We have 5 Miramar games and 2 Erangel games left total, if you look at everything, between the end of today and tomorrow. And you can see where our point system is sitting right now. That's our super point system. Everybody should be used to that by now. 1 point per kill, and then our 1st through 16th with their specific points. Then prizing, this is where it's going to get interesting as well because a single mistake could mean the difference between $4,000, $6,000, $2,000. I mean, it is a lot on the line here, guys, as we head into the last bit here. But it's not going to be just me talking about these games. I am going to be joined now by a man whose chair I am currently sitting in. Normally you're used to seeing him sitting in this chair, I think. It's still my chair. But Toffees, Cameron, great 3 games in the books already. Did you guys have fun doing a little Erangel casting?
Yeah. I did. Yeah. I don't get to do it often, and I forgot how much fun it is. So thank you for giving me that opportunity and being willing to sit in that chair and let us have a good time out there. Also, Cameron, this guy got a quarantine haircut, and nobody talked about it. It's looking fresh, man. I saw it last weekend, and I'm digging it.
Thank you.
Just wanted to say.
I got it. New York opened up phase 2 of reopening, which safely allows for barbershops as long as they are in a controlled environment. The day it opened, I went to get a haircut just in time to host last week. But thank you for calling it out. No one else here did. No one else here noticed it. Not a single person.
Look, hey, we're not going to talk about what Texas and their reopening and what those do. Either way, your haircut looking fantastic. You know what else is looking some fantastic is these leaderboards. Let's take a look at where we're sitting after the first 3 games of the day. Shoot to kill, still holding on to that first place position, but it has been a tenuous grasp at best as Zenith, Wildcard, Hardshifts, all cranking things up a little bit today, as well as Oath and Sonics. And you can see Fabled starting to fall down the leaderboard a little bit here. We saw them have a decent game at the beginning, but we really haven't seen that same Fabled from last weekend, have we, Cam?
Yes, they are in 5th place, but they're only behind by 3 points. It is so tight from 2nd to 6th place that I don't want people to over-exaggerate how far teams like Fabled have fallen or how much of a climb Oath still have left. Yes, Oath are in 6th place, but they're 6 points behind 2nd. So it's still a really good job, and it's still very much their event. They could still win.
I mean, the reality for me, real quick, is that Fable did go out, but they went out in 8th with 4 kills. So even when they're having really bad games, they're still putting some points on the board, which is sort of like a glimmer of hope when I watch them.
Trying to get stuff done. Speaking of getting stuff done, STK was able to get stuff done there in the 3rd game of the day. First 2 games, maybe not so much, but we're going to go into our predictions. Once again, I still stuck with STK, guys. I'm committing. I'm full committing to the belief that this is the time. This is STK's time. They had me nervous there in those first 2 games. I'm not going to lie, but those 12 points they picked up in game 2, I feel like were almost desperately needed to right the ship before we head over into Miramar. Toffees, who'd you have going in?
Start of the day today, I picked Oath. I believe in them. I've watched them for a while. If you go over their numbers from last weekend, despite the fact that they had some pretty bad placement, they were still putting in 5, 8, 6 kills per game on average. So it showed me that if they could just get their placement in position, like they could find some positioning, they had the potential to get back in this. It's a long shot. I'll own that, but today makes me feel a heck of a lot better about it.
43 points in 2 games is a hell of a way to start a comeback, isn't it? Cameron, who'd you have?
I also, like you, had SDK. I picked them before the game started today, of course, and that was a really strong lead, and you can't deny the fact that they looked very, very good last weekend, and we were unsure on how well the 2nd, 3rd, 4th place players would be able to contest with them. rough first 2 games, as you also mentioned. But I don't think we've seen, after that third game, I don't think we've seen any sort of typical trope of a collapse from them.
Well, I'm going to throw this out here for you, Toffees.
Okay.
So, first 2 games, STK gets 2 points total.
Okay.
Game 3, they get the most STK circle of all time. And they managed to get second place out of it and 6 kills. Is that really a comeback performance from STK? Or is that we kind of got a little lucky here? And we got some points off of this that were desperately needed, but we're still not looking like the STK of last weekend.
I think it is, because to me, STK is not a throttle team, right? They don't live the W life necessarily like others do. The thing that I like about STK is they have the ability to sort of pull the gas back, or, maybe pop the clutch a little bit when they need to. And with the lead they came into, I was scared they might be a little overly defensive today, and I think they suffered from that in the first game. But what we saw in that last one, where they played position, they allowed kills to come to them, they didn't force the fight with ATC, they moved Luke 12 to a better spot to potentially take the engagement. That's what I like about STK's style of play, and I think it's okay for them to get these sort of middle-of-the-road point games because of how strong they were coming in this weekend.
Gambit, who do you think, in your opinion, who is the team that you would be most worried about going into these last 2 Miramar games?
Oath, Tactical 8.
Oath? Okay. Tactical 8? Sure. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, actually, by all intents and purposes, like, they're on the bottom. They haven't really shown any strong ability to mount any sort of engagement. Listen, they're in the top 16 in North America, so you can't take that away from them. But they just haven't been able to show up. But as far as the teams that are like in contention, the ones that you're going to be talking about for winning this entire thing, it is going to be Oath. They had really a strong first 2 games, but when you come into Miramar, that they've had 0 points many times before and last weekend, I don't know.
Well, that's our opinions. We'll have to see what our casters think about it. Guys, take it away. Matchroom and Hypoc are going to be closing things out.
Thanks so much, guys.
Yeah.
Straight into game as fast as we can and get everything set and ready to go.
Yeah, let's get straight to it, Matt. There's I mean, we're coming back to Miramar. Last 2 games. There's a lot of ground to be made up.
Be specific on what we talk about the next segment.
True.
Yeah. Good point. Okay, well, I'll be prepared.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a running issue with North America, is there's always these 2 teams you're like, why the hell aren't you guys in the top 8? What is going on with you? And a couple of teams that are composed of players that we've known for a very long time, at this point years, just not having the biggest rotation coming in for and getting the best games. But I mean, our playing path was pretty simple coming in. We came up over around El Pozo, ended up back down towards that southeastern area. First circle, wouldn't be surprised. Not going to probably be too scary yet. Pretty centered over Graveyard. So a lot of our teams already inside the circle, but we know that they're not going to be comfortable inside that spot. Going to try to find somewhere else to play for.
Yeah, this is again, we talk about these every so often, where that power grid kind of ridge, over to the east side, that kind of cuts off the Picalo North Road. We know that sometimes these ones center up for Circle 2, and we have a pretty much a 50-50 split at the high ground and down towards Graveyard. That's the interesting part of this circle for me, Matt. Again, seeing the teams that decide to take control of the high ground, and then the others that settle for the compounds down. Always gets interesting come Circle 3, depending on which way it goes, but we'll have to wait and see. Zenith, meanwhile, passing not the Graveyard I was talking about, another smaller graveyard elsewhere, right up on the north side of the map, actually, up near Oasis. This is, we don't usually see people out this far. Where's Roth going?
He's got goals in life. He's decided that he wants to go take a scenic view around the Oasis. Oddly enough, going from Zenith, that's way up next to like that northern wall, the closest team to the south of them is Shoot to Kill. The whole space between pretty much the northern wall and Hacienda is still open, so Zenith should have a fairly easy rotation. Really, I'm just kind of curious to see how Shoot to Kill is going to play this one. A lot of our eyes are kind of drawn this direction. Sure, they have the 30-point lead. Not the two best games, but they did manage to make it up. But that's kind of the way Shoot to Kill plays, is the fact that two bad games isn't going to phase them. They'll still manage to bounce back and find some way to make this work. The question is, over the next 2 days, can they hold down this lead?
Well, it's an interesting game style, play style you bring up, and that kind of get out in front and almost coast ethos. I know isn't going to make them feel, I guess, happy with their performance. They're a team that constantly likes improving, identifying mistakes made on game by game basis. So I know that Kurt's going to be not tilted, but definitely frustrated that they certainly couldn't close out the previous game. And again, that ultimately come down to a 4v2 with the team we see on screen right now, Wildcard. But I don't think they're going to be like happy that they're just sat in first right now and kind of picking up minimal points. And I say minimal, they're still putting points on the board. But yeah, it doesn't. You know what I mean, it's not on brand for them, Matt. They're definitely a team that likes to make it as comfortable as possible and not have to worry about the last few games.
And that's often the thing that we see. Whenever you get into first, a lot of these teams go, okay, now let's just play safe and hold our lead. I don't think that we've been seeing Shoot to Kill do that, and that's kind of been an inverse problem for them. On the other side of this, we just saw Fabled just a second ago. They were doing great on the leaderboard, and, we were kind of picking on Shoot to Kill a little bit, but it hasn't been the best positioning coming out from Fabled, really. They've been kind of on a slow decline, making their way down. So now then, we can see that looks like Radiance is doing a little bit of a reposition right next to their points and trying to get a little bit more vision on what's going on with Sonics. You can see Profi making a play around the warehouse, but kind of in the open front of it is going to be where Radiance can take a couple of pot shots, so got to be a little bit careful.
Yeah, and Sonics up in, I guess a spot we've seen them take time and time again, but again, this is another we talk about this constantly, the edge of this crater around on the north side. Again, a position Sonics like to favor heavily coming into kind of phase 3 and 4 where they like to sweep that edge. Again, lots of good sight lines down here. Oath down towards, the compound just outside Bendita. No surprises there. They like to get themselves a little contingency plan, but usually flex over towards Graveyard or the high ground overlooking from Minas. But Comets, got themselves in a good spot, but it's we haven't seen Comets. Other than the D-Treats endgame clip, we haven't really seen Comets kind of make it to late game recently. Man, we've talked about this a couple of times on the desk. I know whether or not it's been with you, but I know it's been brought up on the desk a couple of times. I don't know what's happened with those guys. They've just kind of dropped off since we've come out of the Charity Showdown and the group stages.
But that's kind of been the thing with Comets. Is they're a team that whenever they need to perform and their backs 100% against the wall, and it's like the last day of the event, they manage to string together a couple of wins, and they start to have pretty good performances. Elsewise, they fight pretty early inside the game, and then maybe they get one or two people in towards the late game. I thought that this was going to be their event. I was with you. I thought that they were going to start showing up inside those top 8, but it's been kind of quiet for them as well.
Yeah.
A lot of our teams, I feel like, are playing a little bit more defensive moving into today, whereas I know that the last day can be a little bit more explosive, where they're like, okay, this is it, we've got to perform now. You see them show up, but it feels like very measured from a lot of our teams and how they're moving forward into these circles.
Well, it's down to a different approach, right? It's if we have a short series like a best of 10, best of 12, teams are desperate to put points on the board. With these kind of week on week where we have 4 match days in total, and it's across 2 weeks for the grand finals here in particular, I think that group stage mentality in terms of play style carries over, where unfortunately some teams just leave it too late, and then they're like, well, do we go balls to the wall now, or do we carry on kind of playing safe and hoping to get some games where we get favored by Circle and hope that we pick up a massive amount of points. But we get to LAN events, Matt, and it's like every major event you look at it, the teams that win aren't the passive ones. They're the aggressive teams that go out, get points early on in the series, and then they carry that momentum through. It's never about making slow passive play in terms of the leaderboard, at least in my eyes. And I know we've talked about this a number of times before, but passive teams don't win tournaments unless you're M19 back in 2018, but that's not happened since.
Damn right. And they're more fun to watch as well. I always cheer for those guys. That's one of the reasons why I always like to cheer for teams like Carnage and that style of play. So a lot of our teams opting into playing towards center right now. You can see a lot of vision coming in, people trying to get an idea on what's going on around them. But the center section of the circle, pretty much from about the midway point all the way back down towards the south, is where we're seeing a lot of our teams play from. A lot of terrain still in play. You saw a couple of shots coming out from Los Leones. We saw Comets kind of playing along those points. It's okay. It's those boxes. Everybody forgets about them. They're hiding in those bushes over there. But Illusion making a little bit of a rotation in is going to be kind of interesting, as we've got a lot of teams starting to stack up and do. What is it with people driving and just running into things? It's like a chain event. We see one person across the map, then another person across the map. Luckily, nobody's run over anybody else just quite yet, or at least run over a teammate, I should say.
We've got several Froz clones in the lobby.
Poor Froz, man. Runs over his teammates 20 or 30 times a year ago, and
nobody ever forgets about it.
Nobody ever lets it go. Nobody ever lets it go. All right, so you can see the hardships are making their rotations, and right now, kind of holding down a very interesting point where we see a lot of information control can go back over their direction. I like the fact that they're inside vehicles. They know the circle's about to condense down, so they're already on the move if it shifts away from them, but not going to be that big of an issue. Hardship's already pretty close to where they want to go. Going to have to be careful about where 303 is, maybe give them a little bit of distance. But we saw a lot of teams, you even pointed out, playing around Power Grid, moved away from that. That's where Wildcard was playing. They went back over towards the east, and now we've got a hard shift back over towards the west.
Yeah, and actually this is, this is kind of problematic, because again, that high ground I was talking about, where those rocks are, we dub it the unplayable zone, that splits down the middle of this circle, with it hard shifting so far over towards the edge, and that's going to create an interesting, an interesting split of teams that decide to opt for either Picado or something west of there, because there's not an awful lot of space. As I say that, Sonics have backfilled themselves in here. McCoy's going to get found out because Radiants are also coming for the arena. McCoy actually going to get flushed out there. Shrims it down to 20 HP, but he does have a teammate here to back him up. And as I say, these are the two teams. Go on.
I was going to say, we usually see Sonics leave this location, separate out pretty quickly. You know, they don't like to hang around too much. I think that Radiance was trying to exploit that, thought that they might have an easy path in. And lo and behold, Sonics are just sitting here chilling, holding down the Luchador arena, lose one very quickly, trying to get a little bit more information, and now have to be very cautious as 303 is taking down the buildings back down behind them. Hardships are encroaching on the area that 303 is trying to play from. So now suddenly Picado, where Radiance thought it was going to be pretty friendly, is turning out to be a very scary place for them to be.
It is, yeah, and I mean, Radiant's actually forced into the low ground down on the west side. Actually, speaking of the west side of Picado here, D-Rich is going to get spotted out by Hardshifts. They've come down to take this compound here. Maluk going to pick up the flush onto D-Rich. And this here, obviously, we did see, just previously before we jumped into Picado, we did see Hardshifts wrapping up from Chumacera, actually the crates outside Chumacera. So they've made a little bit of a ascend towards this compound. You can see Maluk and Lobes over here. Jace. Yeah,
that's it. Luke's still pushing up the fragging numbers. I love it.
Yeah, it's Maluk's been performing again. He gets a lot of flack for a couple of phases. You know, I say underperforming, but again, when you got Sharky and Zampa on your team, it's difficult to be the star player in terms of stats. But he's really been putting in work the last few weeks. I think he's been a fantastic addition to Hardshifts.
All right, now we're popping over here with Elusive that's holding down a complex, but T8's encroaching on multiple different fronts. Looks like they might be looking for a little bit of a skirmish with this. You can see Beams playing along on the outside of it. Good shot's going to come out actually from Comets that get a little bit of vision over. Zenith giving a little bit of a wide breath towards over where Shoot to Kill It is playing, but there's the crash that I was looking for. T8's finding themselves in a pretty interesting spot, looking like they're trying to maneuver through what looks to be a car dealership of vehicles just outside of this. Grizzly's looking around the window, trying to see if he can spot anybody, but this is kind of slowed down just a touch as Grizzly's now making his run along the outside, spots him through the window. Easy pickup, but now the fight's happening around the outside of this. This is a very closed corridor fight as it's a quick exchange back and forth. T8 regrets taking their approach, but Grizzly's trying to make as much work of it as he can on the outside, trying to take down as many members of Elusive as he can, but I think that he's gotten control over that point from right now. Grizzly's still trying to look around for a Nate, the last member up. Finally does spawn him, but a Nate goes for the pick around as the door is in the way. Big exchange back and forth and steps right into the bullets. Elusive goes out in 16th.
Yeah, it's actually surprising Tactical 8 swung that team fight back around because, I mean, look at the crash. Initially, the knock coming out from Sub-Zero with the bolt onto, I think it might have been Fizzle that got picked off in that one story, but Tactical 8 seemingly capitalizing on that. As we see the circle pull down to the south this time around, you can see Picardo slap bang in the middle. Radiance and Sonic's obviously occupying that, as we talked about before, but there's 5 or 6 teams here, Matt. They're over up on the north and the east side here, coming down from Graveyard side, that are going to have a hard time finding anything coming in.
Wildcard's going to have the high ground, looking back down over Picado. 2 teams that we were talking about just a second ago, and Sonics and Radiance, both holding down 2 different points on it. Zenith driving by T8. I'm kind of curious on T8's decision to make that crash just a second ago. It looks like they're going pretty bloodthirsty this game. I think that they realized, all right, we're having a little bit of trouble making it into the late game. So instead, let's just turn that around. Let's just aim for kills early, crash what we see if maybe we can get some points out of it. And I mean, they've already managed to take down Elusive, so from here on out, they might be able to find a couple more kills, start climbing up that leaderboard, get out of that last place position.
Yeah, and again, now's not the time. It's the 15th and 16th place team fighting it out, but again, maybe just leaving it a little too late to be playing with that level of confidence. And again, trading 4 for 2. I don't know. It was a scrappy crash for me, but then it's now maybe in a bit of trouble. Fabled got Hella here, sending some shots towards them as they transition over on the south side outside the circle. Not gonna land too many shots here. Maybe just some zoning shots. Later's actually going to flip his vehicle. That is disastrous right now. The bike's going to come back. He needs to try and get a pickup here, but actually Later landing some shots onto Hella, going to force him back behind this rock.
So now Fable's trying to get a little bit more information, but look at the push coming up from Kickstart, trying to defend his teammate, knowing that he's very vulnerable right now. Kickstart's trying to grab as much attention and aggro as he can. Roth's peppering in a couple of shots on the side of this, and Hella, who initiated this, is very quickly finding herself in a troubled spot. Gonna walk up, Kickstart just takes that one, but way off in the distance. You can see one of the members did go down for Zenith, so gonna be Roth, the star performer from that squad. Gotta be very careful still. Long range shots coming out from Fabled. Looks like they do manage to get him up, but this is starting to turn pretty problematic as one vehicle is now flipped. The other one's taken a lot of damage.
That was an insane turnaround from Kickstart, though. He was originally the person I think that was going to go and pick Later up, but the information must have been relayed there that Hella was kind of out on an island solo up on the hill. Kickstart just pulled up, just no respect onto Hella. Gets the kill there. Roth, like you said, got revived, and he was the person that obviously was relaying the information because the tag came out from Roth at distance. Kickstart there to capitalize on it as we see Illusion picking apart Liberate in the kill feed. Not sure exactly what happened there, but I did see a vehicle mishap somewhere along the lines.
Let's see where the next circle is going to take us, and it's still going to stay around Picado, but it's going to at least move away from the power grid hillside. Means back down towards the south, we've got a ton of complexes that are going to be available and rotations coming in. You can see Fabled still trying to get a little bit more space away from Zenith that's coming up back behind them. They did lose Greg's shot, so now down to 2. They do have themselves a little bit of a track to make it back towards a complex that could find themselves being quite popular as Comets are just up the hill towards their north. Right now, we have one member of Exodus, Illusion, Liberate being the last member, Hard Shifts, Shoot to Kill, ATC, and Oath, all outside the circle right now in a little bit of a scrappy position, all of them being in some form and fashion gate kept.
Yeah, and, now at the point where, again, off of these hard shifts, Matt, we talked about that a couple of times today now. We're just going to have a couple of teams try and put some points on the board. I think we're actually going I think we actually got 1 or 2 off there, actually. But Jason going to follow up on that, and Addict going to find himself picked off the bike. Uncivil needs to pick up, but he's not getting on right now. You know, Master like actually open up onto Oath. 2 knocks it. Snakers and Wolf going to fall behind this Bronco. So they're going to pick himself up 2 kill points there. Oath continuing the Miramar trend, I will say, as of recent. Now down to 2 people, Relo and Bale, the last 2, and they're down in the center of Crater.
Well, they're going to have to head back down around the south, which could put them over next to Zenith, who is definitely vibing right now. These guys are feeling in the mood to take any fight after what we just saw a second ago from Kickstart. Do have a couple of long-range shots that are coming in between Shoot to Kill and the Hard Shifts. Shoot to Kill trying to come up back behind them. Remember, Hard Shifts not inside the safe zone either, so this could be a very interesting fight with 303 pretty close to their position. Exodus looking like they're trying to gather a little bit more information about how they're wanting to handle the approaches they're going through, but there we go. Shoot to Kill now rolling down the hillside, rolling right up next to where the Hard Shifts are at, but remember, the Hard Shifts are not inside the safe zone, and neither is 303 that hears Shoot to Kill rolling up, and looks like they're moving into an aggressive point. Shoot to Kill does have a hillside in between them and the Hard Shifts, But Luke's got to be very careful. He's very beaten in back over towards the hard shifts. Honey Badger doing a little bit of flank back behind this, and it looks like shoot to kill really aiming back over towards the hard shifts position. Could find themselves in a lot of trouble if Honey Badger managed to connect with some shots. Get the jump up, does spot it out. Could creep up right back behind him at any given second. It's all a matter of waiting to see how these other 303 members are going to set up. But they're not even going to have an opportunity to do anything. Hardships just hold the line right now. 2 members of Shoot to Kill go down, and it's just Honey Badger looking back over towards the Shoot to Kill goes down in 14th place. 303 looks like they're perfectly fine with seeing where Hardships are playing at and retreat away from the fight.
Yeah, and unfortunate pinch situation coming out there. 303 now should be able to get themselves back in. You can see just on the minimap the long building of their compound is still in, so they're going to have themselves a little bit of space to play with. But I mean, yeah, well, I said it. SDK aren't a Miramar team, so we'll chalk it up to that, right, Matt? Hey, you're the SDK. You're the SDK fan. You're the SDK fan. Take it away.
Hey, look, there's just no Sandhawk. Remember, they're the Sandhawk Kings.
They're the Sandhawk
We had that
Kings.
here. Easy points, man. Easy points coming out off of this. All right. You can see Comets getting into a little bit of a skirmish with ATC on the side of it, realizing the fact that, hey, maybe we don't want to be too involved in an edge fight out in the open. Might have a third party come their way. New circle pops, and it continues to trend back down towards the south. Still pretty centered, just a touch back over towards that southeast. Means that Fabled, Wildcard, Radiance, T8's Remnants, and Exodus are all going to find themselves in the circle. But Comets and ATC are not. Good spray coming out from Petrie. Easy pickup onto that one. Marshall having that high ground point, trying to look back over to the barrel. Not get much out of it. It's just a bounce back and forth between every single point on this hillside. Comets are putting in some work on top of it, and now Marslick finding himself in a dangerous spot as it's just going to be members of Comets flushing down the hillside to take him out. Now up to 5 kills. Good performance coming out from the Comets.
That's the kind of Comets that I wanted to see every single week. Every single week. Fantastic team fight there. Actually, you see the 2 members of Oath somehow Relo ending upside down inside a vehicle there. Does get onto the long building, but Fabled also occupy this building. You see the molly coming out just to cut off the doorway, but not going to land any damage just yet. I
think that they're content just to be safe here.
Yeah, I mean, they're inside a building. They're in the circle, but we know Oath. They're going to get aggressive on this. Supernova already on the other side. He's going to try and get a Molotov back down here. Ooh! Okay, they missed the peak. Did the molly land? Did the molly land?
No. Given the fact that we saw both members of Oath retreat back up, I'm willing to bet that landed right at maybe their feet. As you can see, they did step back up the stairwell just a touch. So Oath still playing. Oh, no, right along the doorway. So Relo can still do a little bit of a peek back out, but that is a dangerous peek. Fire still up, denying a lot of information. Comet seems like they want to join the party as well, rolling back down the hillside on the other sides of Barnes there. Oath does hear this. You can see Relo looking back over, and I gotta say, Fable holding that lean right there is a dangerous choice. Do manage to step back away from it. Meanwhile, back over here, we just got fights happening everywhere. Picado hillside fight. Well, actually, I should say tall building fight. As you can see, moving up inside of this, it's going to be Sonics still going on the hunt after Radiance.
Yeah, and actually, Sonics got themselves the 5-story. You can see Lost HD, the last one up for Radiance. He's inside the shanty town down the bottom. Wildcard again on the other side. We jump back on with the Oath and Fabled situation. With Comets backfilling the barn now. This is an absolute clown fiesta here. Nobody's going to be able to move out of this. I think it's going to be your favorite catchphrase, mutually assured destruction, Matchroom. I don't think anybody's going to be able to get away from that safely because we know there's just a sheer drop hill that comes down to Picado outside it. So unless we see a hard shift here, it's going to be pretty disastrous for everybody.
Well, Comets walking in have to figure out whether or not they're contending with 4-man team that's in front of them, as oddly enough, Oath and Fabled have decided, hey, let's stop fighting each other and let's go after what's going on in front of us. But nice shots coming out from Sub-Zero, going to connect onto Relo, take him down. Res should come out from this new circle has popped, and it's still going to go back up next to Picado.
This compound actually still in. Just Supernova's going to push up here. Relo goes down. Bale's still at the top of the stairs. And there you go. Tanaka will finally trade that. Look at his HP, though. 2 HP. Couldn't get any bullets to it. Now Comets push in. They're going to take out Fabled as well. So, as expected, in quick succession, everybody inside the long building dying. Comets now have themselves a high ground position overlooking the rest of the circle.
That's why you got to stay friends whenever you're sharing that. There's a 4-man squad next to you. You start taking those shots, fighting amongst each other, and Comets are like, oh, we can just go take this real quick. All right. So now Comets do have a nice high ground, looking over what's going on with Picado. Zenith are trying to continue their way back over towards the north. Not a lot of options really lying up in front of them. Exodus back over towards the northwest from their position, also kind of in a similar fate. Zenith do have themselves this high ground point that they can play with, but it's not a lot of cover really to work with, especially if they have to move. They know that they're in some trouble. They're going to be right on the edge of the circle, having to walk down to an absolute kill zone as there is no cover to work with. I think that Exodus is also eyeing looking back towards Zenith's direction, so curious to see how Zenith is going to handle this.
Yeah, actually, the two members of Tactical 8 have made a mad dash send in. Dietrich's actually going to find Roth there. We know that's his second down, so probably not going to get a res coming out. The Dietrich's actually going to finish it off. Zenith pulling up onto the side of the road here. I'm not sure how safe this is going to be once anybody inside Picado gets a couple of seconds to just look up the hill. Kickstart trying to get some smoke cover down here. 4 kills on the board for him, 5 in total for Zenith. But Exodus now, Matt, coming over the top of the hill, looking like they want to pressure this.
Leda has to defend for his team. The other two members are caught in a very dangerous spot. The moment these shots start going off, everybody look back up this direction. Good shots coming up from Leda. Does manage to take down one, but doesn't buy enough time. Taylor J does go down, but that might stall out the other members of Exodus. Looks like Venus trying to go along the hillside, but Pat Caps is just putting in absolute work right now. Now Kickstart finding himself in a very dangerous spot. Got to run back away from the Molotov and the grenades, but Comet says, hey, you were picking a fight with us just a second ago. Victor takes him down, and that's going to be Zenith getting caught into a pincered position yet again.
I mean, that push up from Exodus there was absolutely fantastic, Matt.
Yeah. Good play coming out from them. Exodus now retreating from that they're full now. They stepped up, managed to get a couple of kills, enjoying their dinner, now stepping away from everything that's going on. Sonic still holding down control of everything that's going on in Picado. These guys are running and gunning and been fighting for a long time. Not a lot of kills, but they're making sure that everybody knows that this is their home, as the circle's going to go right back over next to Wildcard Gaming.
Yeah, now I think Wildcard hopefully in a position to hold on to this circle for the rest of it.
All right, Sonic still trying to make their way back over and through. 303 is trying to step up. Good shot's going to be coming out from the team to hold it down, but Wildcard, here's what's happening. They've gotten a little bit of circle love, but everything's been going over in Sonic's direction as far as the fights have been happening. Wildcard not capable of getting a lot of kills at this point. Sure, there's a lot going on around them that maybe they can pick up from here on out, but a lot of these teams are really eyeing back towards each other. Tier 8 going in there. It's infectious at this point. T8, Tactical 8 being held down inside that point. You can see you're going to have to deal with Exodus. They're trying to encroach up back behind them. Got to be very, very careful with this. As well as Comets slowly creeping in back over towards the east. Do manage to creep in and at least get 2 members in. I think they might manage to make the other 4, but it's all about the smoke push. Taylor J leading the way, running right up next to Tactical 8. How well can they defend this? Starting to throw out smokes. Maybe try to get a couple of grenades.
Did it go
this
in?
is going to be a nice bounce. Beautiful! Shows up big for Taylor J. That's a quick pickup, and now they have a little bit of territory to control. Once the smoke dissipates, that Molotov goes away.
I kind of wanted to see the Molotov finish off the knock and the kill, though, to be honest with you. But fantastic nade from Taylor J there. Great use of utility from Exodus to get up close here. Taylor J already trying to open up onto Sonics as they try and use their smoke cover to get across the road. Naturally, Taylor J now. Oh, he just popped the Molotov out of his hand on the balcony. Oh, my God. Did you see that?
Exodus.
Did you see that?
Amazing. I love
Taylor
everything
J.
that Exodus is doing right now. Taylor J, I don't know what has changed, but he is on fire right now. Wildcard going with a reposition. Comet still looking back down onto this, but damn, Taylor J, keep it up.
Dude, I think Taylor J just shot that Molotov in Sharpshot's hand and it ended up knocking him.
I'm going to trust you on that. I saw it, but I'm not going to vouch for it just quite yet. We'll have to go back and look inside the replays on that one. Exodus holding down the edge for it. If it was, that was...
I mean, either that or Sharpshot just threw a Molotov at the roof above his head. I don't know. It's, I think in the interest of highlight reels, we'll put it down as a fantastic play from Taylor J.
All right. So you can see comments. They have 2 members that are inside the safe zone. Another 2 that are looking back down towards Wildcard. Wildcard still has a smidgen of their building inside the new safe zone. But Exodus, they're still having to continue their run and gun path. They have a little bit of cover to work with, but it's just the touch of a hillside. Microfrag goes down. Shots coming out from Sharp Shot. It looks like Taylor J deciding, hey, let's push back along over here. Let's use the hillside, seeing if maybe we can creep up back behind Comets. And they're going to walk over here, find themselves a nice little present to work with inside the late game. Always nice to get yourself some tier 3 moving into the last 2 teams to fight.
Yeah, as expected, obviously Wildcard still have themselves a pretty strong position here, but it is an uphill battle. No pun intended. Toffees will like that one, but Comets here have moved themselves down to the shack halfway down, and Wildcard are going to have, I guess, just like the edge of Motel as well as like the ridge outside. There is quite a deep ridge here, as you can see here in the free cam, but I mean, Comets, 11 kills on the board, got themselves to late game. Where was this week 1?
Well, Exodus being up and active, fighting everything. We're seeing active wild card. Oh, Dietrich goes down, and he's been a big performer for their team. Taylor J still looking back over towards it, raining in damage on the vehicle as it rotates through. So now steps back away, goes for the reload. I think he's tried to reload that gun like 3 times at this point, and then keeps getting distracted with more damage to do. Exodus got to be careful about overstepping a little bit too much on that hillside, as Wildcard could have an angle onto them.
Now you see Victor having to settle for a rock here. He's going to smoke himself off a Sub-Zero, and Yaxley looking to make a play uphill here. Maybe try and get... Oh, no, we thought better of it. They're going back. Although maybe they're going to try and get a peek down. No, I like it. I love the aggression early to try and support Victor to get off the rock. You can see the smoke goes down. They tried to counter peek and put some pressure onto Exodus here, but Exodus, all eyes going towards Motel here. I think they've identified Wildcard might be the easier kills here, depending on the circle timing.
Victor tries to go for a flank back around behind Exodus, but they're not going to tolerate it. Takes a couple of shots, drops him down to about half life. Means Exodus has to stop holding back Wildcard. Comet still kind of beat it back over, looking towards Exodus. They're going to lose one of their members. That's 2 down coming out from Comets. They've got to be very careful now, as I believe he actually might be the last member that's alive at this point. Going to go for the res back over next to Sub-Zero. But this is unlocked Wildcard. That touch of a distraction was exactly what they needed to cross that very dangerous no man's land right out in the open. So now just a hill separating 2 different teams. Wildcard very aware that if Comets looks out, they could find themselves in a little bit of trouble, and that becomes Sharp Shot's job. He's got to make sure Comets does not look back down towards him. Pat's got to defend Wildcard based off of positioning, and everybody knows where all of these teams are moving to and trying to counter move, trying to set up some type of play to wait for the other ones to make some type of move, but it just hasn't been able to get off yet, as now Pat Cap sees all the smokes coming back his direction. Opts into going and playing it aggressive. Tries to move through the smokes, but can't get too aggressive as he knows Comets to his side. He's fighting off 2 different teams by himself. Taylor J is providing as much support as he can, but really it's one person holding back one team on both sides of Exodus right now. Comets goes for a flank back behind it. Does manage to take down Sharp Shot. That means that Wildcard knows they have to move. They have to use these smokes that are in front of them. Pintola makes for a stop, but Keenan is right in front of Exodus and has to be very careful. Going for the meds on top of it as everything is starting to condense down to the last point. How Keenan going to handle this? Going to go for a flashbang right out in front of him. Pat's all of 2 feet away and could hit him with it. Going to walk right out by them, but there's so much smoke, Pat doesn't see it. Exodus gets eliminated. Wildcard still moving forward. Keenan does spot out. Yaxley moving. Going to get the shots back over towards Sub-Zero. Down into a 1v1. Yaxley runs back over towards the smoke. Very low on life right now. Caught up in a fight with Pintola. Has to be careful on how he makes the play off of this. Flash does connect onto him. It's all about information being fed over. The grenade's going to roll right on top of it. And that's Wildcard walking away with 9 kills.
That was nearly actually clutch there from Yaxley. Unfortunately, the underarm flash stunning himself there. The smoke was about to die at the perfect time for him to capitalize on that. But I guess there was an underhand nade that came out from Penta somewhere that was just rolling down the hill. And as Yaxley went to get that final flush, it managed to actually flush him out.
I mean, Wildcard, man. Okay, we've talked about Comets. We wanted them to, just, I don't know, be more aggressive, be more what we could see coming out from the Wildcard. I would say we saw also playing passive, now starting to get a little bit more aggressive. All 3 teams moving in towards the end, Exodus included. This is what we've been waiting to see all last week, and I'm loving to see it now. Wildcard's in it, managing to move up the leaderboard, but for Comets and Exodus, they have to keep this level of pressure up.
Yeah, they do. And it's fantastic to see Exodus make it to the end game. We obviously saw them break their curse last week and get a win on the board. Obviously, Microfire seems to be a really positive influence on this roster, and that's fantastic to see for them. Because, again, it's been disappointing for me to not see them live up to the potential I think that roster has. I mean, everybody saw the Pat Caps clip from earlier, so it's good to see them playing with confidence and making it to late game at least twice today. Maybe this is a sign of things that will change, hopefully, coming into the final day tomorrow.
We're seeing no-scopes. We're seeing Molotovs be shot out of people's hands. I love it. This is what you want to see whenever we're moving into the last 2 days of competition. Because keep in mind, these teams have been playing through a group stage, a qualifying stage for some of them, and now finally making to a grand final. So this has been a long process for a lot of these teams that are now looking at the last, we have 6 more games left as we've got 1 more today, 5 tomorrow, and you just have to, they say, okay, destiny is in my hands. I have to choose to make the play now.
Yeah, it is. And do you know what? It's been a long time since we've seen Taylor J be the kind of aggressor that he was in that game. And that's, again, we always used to talk about it at MPL, right? Taylor J having this X factor.
All right. Well, we've been breaking it down a little bit, but the analysts can do it way more than we can. So we're going to go ahead and throw it over towards Cammy, D, Toffees, and Porosaurus.
And we are back after that Game 4 on Miramar. Saw some pretty nutty performances, but in the end, Wildcard taking home the big win, something that they desperately needed, as he said. But I didn't. Did he shoot? Do y'all think he shot the Molotov out of his hand? I couldn't make it out.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult to tell.
I couldn't tell. It seemed to me more like, you know, we've all been in that moment where you're like queuing up your throwable and then you take a couple of shots and you sort of do the spin to run as you release the throwable. And I don't know if he shot it out, but he definitely stopped him from throwing it at him.
It was a good shot regardless.
Yes,
but let's take a look at our highlights from that game as we see what happened, man. What happened with Shoot to Kill? We see them go out, I think that was early once again.
I mean,
I'm wondering what happened in that fight between Tactical 8 and Elusive, because that one was kind of sloppy all around.
I think STK is just trying to keep it spicy for us tomorrow. They're doing they're laying it back a little bit today, letting everybody else catch up and get a little bit closer so that tomorrow we're going to have 6 teams all competing for first place. And I appreciate them doing that for the viewers.
Oh my goodness, that was
gross.
That was definitely a barn burner.
This was a very, very interesting game. Wow. Just because I feel that the way that the map moved, that the circle moved, with Picado having a big presence, it kind of isolated the different corners from each other, and it's more like almost you had to play in a bracket system. Okay, do we win our section? Then we can move on to fight the winners of the next section, and there wasn't so much like long distance third partying in this game, and which is why I'm not so surprised to see the teams at the end that were there, like Exodus and Wildcard especially, because we know how good they are when it comes down to the actual fighting. It's the Comets that were the big standout for me for making it that far. They came out with a good number of kills despite losing the final 1v1 there at the end.
I mean, I think we were saying, I mean, this is a circle that we haven't really seen. I mean, we've seen a lot of the same similar circles in this one finally. A little bit different there, settling just to the east of Picado. Toppie's, what were your take-homes from that one?
I mean, it's always nice to see something in the middle. I think especially when you're talking second last game of the day, everyone gets relatively fair rotations, so on and so forth. My takeaway was Wildcard came to play today, right? They got a win. Let's not forget that's second game of the day when Oath took the win. They were literally one bail flick away from Wildcard taking that instead. So Wildcard from the jump has just been playing a very good game, and it only seems to be getting stronger. It doesn't matter if it's Erangel or Miramar. So that's what's been impressing me the most.
There you go. Wildcard collecting 19 points from this map, and again, a resurgent Comets team there with 18. We haven't really seen them show up too often in this top 5, so we got to give them credit when they are up there. 12 kills, great performance coming out of them. Exodus in that top 3, and Sonic's up there in that top 4 as well, so maybe continuing their climb. Meanwhile, Fabled in 10th, Shoot to Kill in 14th, Oath in 14th. Well, I guess tied for all of that, but low point totals coming from some of our top of the leaderboard teams. Is this opening the door for anybody, Cam?
Yeah, it's opened the door for a lot of the teams like Wildcard and Zenith specifically, as well as Houston Hardships, the younger brothers. Good to see Comets here at the top 5 kills. Not just one player, Victor certainly popped off, but D-Treat, Sub-Zero all performed very well. They just need to hopefully find consistency to wrap out the day if they want to continue this climb up, but I don't even think they're still in the top half.
I mean, it's not every day that we see Comets come close enough to our atmosphere to really appreciate them. But when we do see them,
oh my God,
it's a spectacular sight, and that's what they came out and they did. They played it very, very well. I mean, Victor, I think we know D-Treats. We've seen Sub-Zero around for a while. Victor's a player who I think is starting to make a little bit of a name for himself. Having those 5 kills is going to aid that. And It's also interesting, though, of course, to see that only one of them made the top 5 damage. So they're doing a good job of closing. And that's, I think, an important thing in this game is not just hitting the most people, but being able to make sure you're picking up the kills, you're stealing the knocks, you're putting the points on the board.
Yeah, as you said, that damage top 5, very even and relatively low across the board, kind of maybe an indicator of the kind of circle we were playing with. But here is our total leaderboard going into the final game of the day. Shoot to kill, still holding on to the lead, but it has dwindled away to just 10 points. Wild card making a big run here today. Zenith as well, staying at that 3rd spot. And Houston Hardships has been holding on to this 4th place position, leaving themselves right in striking distance. At some point, though, you got to figure they're going to have to strike.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they've never seemed to really, as you mentioned, strike during the regular season. They have solid above-average games. They have yet to find the opportunity or the ability to get those A-plus level games that it requires to be a top-level team that you see SDK have, Sonics have, Oath have, even Wildcard and Zenith has those games, and that's why I think we talk about them a little more compared to Hardships.
Yeah, I like how I throw out that comment and I just leave it for y'all to fight over as to who's going to pick it up. I like that.
Oh, I always win.
That's how I do things around here. It's Toffees. I feel like slowly laughing in the background, like this idiot doesn't know how to host. And I agree with you, but I'm trying my best. But Roth is also trying his best as he finds himself still in 1st place. Roth, now joined by teammate Kickstart after that game. So STK, they lose 1 off the board. Supernova still up there as well for Fabled, but slowly sliding away, as does Fabled down the leaderboard. Here's our total damage. Overall, Toffees, Luke 12, still using that ping? Abusing it? Or is this is he just legit?
I mean, it's fun to joke about, but you gotta remember, ping advantages come with massive disadvantages, right? Like, if you don't hit that peak advantage, you're dunsies.
We don't like to think about that part.
Yeah, we don't like to think about the downside, but there are a lot of downs to it. And Luke has been thriving, honestly, playing with... sometimes we see the challenge of, like, you can hear Hypoc having a slight delay when he talks to us because he's so far away. Now imagine if he was in Australia, right? So like even the comms that he's giving to his team potentially have a slight delay. So there's a lot of things that are working against him. And I have an absolute amount of respect that he's able to play from the land down under. They're not in the same time zone we are. Like there's a lot of things working against him right now, and he's still stepping up and thriving. And I 100% respect that.
Able to land those shots, or lead the shots at least, as he continues to just farm ADR across this lobby. But guys, we are going into our final game of the day. Real quick, who do you got going into this final game? Who needs to have a big final game going into the last day? Cameron.
I think SDK do.
Yeah,
SDK. I think SDK need this in order to keep their morale up and to keep the confidence up, to make, because you don't want it to get into their heads, and they'll tell you that it won't, but you kind of have to expect that at least it does a little bit of getting to their heads of like, oh my god, are we throwing a lead again?
I mean, I joked early on about, like, I think they're dropping the ball, but, I mean, to a certain extent, they are punting. They had a good lead. If they had maintained sort of 8 to 10 points per game, they would have been extending that or just maintaining it, and now they've opened the door to other teams. But to me, the team that has to have a good game is Oath. Oath has to prove to me they can play on Miramar. They have to put up good points because we're going 3 Miramar to start tomorrow. So while I believe in them, while I've picked them because they have potential, they got to do well here. They've got to get into that top 6, I think, 5 or 6 before tomorrow if they want to try to make a push for the lead. So Oath needs to have a big game.
There you go. Last game of the day on its way, and a lot riding on this one for all of these teams as they want to put themselves in the best possible position that they can to get whatever money they can get come down to tomorrow. And we have a nice battle going for that first place position as well. But who is going to bring us home today with this final game but none other than Hypoc and Matchroom. Guys, take it away.
Thank you so much, Poro. I know you didn't ask me, but he was asking everybody on desk who they want to see have a big game. I'm going to say it. Wildcard. I think that Wildcard has been performing really well today, and, well, I'm a shoot-to-kill fanboy. I'll admit it. Whenever we get into cast, I'm going to be as unbiased as I can. Outside of cast, love those guys. Wildcard deserves to be in first right now, though.
They do, and this is a team that we saw kind of struggle throughout the group stages and actually the Charity Showdown as well. And Thinking back to the comment I made earlier about the longer series suiting some teams, I think Wildcard was one of those ones that they came in on a day-by-day basis, and after a bad day, they actually followed with a really good day. Not to say that they kind of made up the point deficit in terms of average points per game if you want to go down to that level, but I really do think they're a team that can bounce back, if that makes sense. They know how to kind of switch things up game by game. So I absolutely think that they've been playing their hearts out. And I mean, other than the making it to late game in that Pachinki game with not too many kills on the board, that was an unfortunate circumstance, as I said. Didn't really see too many teams to get points from, but I think you're absolutely right, Matt. Wildcard have been definitely the highlight story for me, again, because they've just been so consistent. And again, you can talk about Sonics having their pop-off day and then kind of, I mean, dropping the ball massively and dropping other days where they were just getting like 20 points on the day. And SDK, again, playing absolutely lights out last weekend. This weekend, haven't really seen the same thing. And it's hard to put your finger on it when it comes down to it, Matt, but I think it just comes down to being able to shake off bad games.
Yeah, I gotta say, comments, Exodus, Wildcard, please, whatever you were doing that last game, whatever changed, give us more of that, because by God, these are some very strong teams that really the scoreboard hasn't been reflecting it, and I'll be direct, their play hasn't been showing that either. Whenever we see them do well, it's phenomenal, but then whenever they have their low games, by God, it's a low game. Shoot to Kill has been watching everything that's been going on today. It's their opportunity. They've had everything that they could possibly want, and then those first two games today kind of slacked off a little bit. They did come back. They're starting to generate more points, but with a very far southern circle, if you're a team like Shoot to Kill, if you're a team like Zenith, 303, you know you're going to have a long rotation in front of you.
Yeah, this is not my favorite zone. There's a big area of this that we again, I hate talking about unplayable areas on Miramar just because it's a big gray area when we think about circles and stuff, but there's a lot of space down to the south side of Miramar in particular that's just kind of dead space. They're just rolling hills, couple of valleys and stuff, but it's just these scrappy compounds that make for these weird foot rotation games come Circle 3 that I don't know. We just end up seeing a load of teams die on the edge, and not really an interesting fights, Matt. Nobody can really get a foothold inside, but we'll have to wait and see how this one plays out. I mean, this does kind of favor a couple of teams that could make a mad dash towards. I'd definitely say the top 5 here, Matt. And it's an interesting last game for us to have.
Well, I mean, Los Leones inside the circle. We've got Chumasera inside the circle, so that means teams like Comets, Exodus, Hardships, in good spots. Sonics, still inside of Bacado, that's inside the circle. We know that they're not going to stay. Well, I'd say that. Usually we know that they're not going to stay there, and that's the gamble that Radiance made in the last game. We'll have to see. Radiance also inside the circle right now, but a team that we haven't heard much from, Fabled, pretty due up in the center of the circle right now, so they have a lot of options ahead of them. I would like to see more out of them, because while I know a lot of us were kind of confused on seeing the position moving in today because they were so high on the leaderboard, we all had hopes that they could hold it. We just didn't know how they were going to hold it, and I'll be direct. It feels like they didn't know how they were going to hold it either, given the way that they've been sliding down the leaderboard.
Yeah, and I mean, again, it's such a weird one to talk about because, game on game, Matt, it's not as if we're seeing Fabled get into a really, I don't know, we talk about cerebral teams, right? And I'm just thinking back to that last game. Kind of hella caught out on an island. Maybe is that overzealous? Is that kind of like, points-based aggression where they're like, look, let's flex out a little bit. And don't get me wrong, I absolutely love that. I absolutely love a team that, is massively overperforming expectations. But again, at some point, there was a point where, I mean, even in that video we watched earlier, right? Kurt saying he's worried about Fabled passing them more so than Sonics. Is there a point where you think a team just should kind of tone it back a bit and say, look, we're in a really good spot here. Let's think things out a bit clearer and get ourselves into game-winning spots as opposed to playing for those early point kills?
Well, I mean, you saw that Fabled was trying to take shots at a vehicle that had flipped, but Wildcard was having nothing to do with that, specifically off of aggression. Usually whenever you see a vehicle flipped out there, you're like, oh, I'll just take a couple of pot shots. It should be a free kill. But suddenly there's another teammate right up in your face out of nowhere. That's the style of wildcard play that I like to see more of. That confidence, that willing to go, nobody's going to expect this, so let's just try to do it. And that's been the name of the game for them today. They're fine. Like you can see Keenan stopping right now, surveying, making sure he gets information over towards his teammates. Sub-Zero running in. Got Guab right on the other side of this, running away in a very slow vehicle. Luckily, he is moving downhill, but there are a lot of little mini hills that are going to bounce that vehicle all over the place. Looks like Bobby might be able to manage to make it away, though. He should be able to just roll away from it. And Comets do manage to get the complex, don't manage to get the kill.
Yeah, and actually escaping away there. Not usually we see the bus making a speedy getaway, but we do see Sonics now coming up to Sarah high ground here. This is a really good scouting spot here. Again, lots of open ground, really good sight lines up and around towards the circle. Again, Sonics looking to make a push down to a compound, I guess. Actually, we have, Fabled. Again, a team we were just talking about here, getting caught out potentially by Exodus.
Well, I was saying I wanted more spicy plays coming out from Exodus. They got a knock, and they quickly trying to capitalize off of it. They are flooding into this complex. They're on the hunt for anything around, but they have to take it smart. They know that there's somebody that's taking long-range shots at them, but they don't know if that's another teammate or not, or somebody that's just wanting to join in the party. Drassel leading the way for the squad, going to be doing a little bit of peeks down this hallway. We saw in the last game, it can be messy, so they got to be very careful. Check everything around you. There could be somebody hiding in every single one of these corners, and it looks like they're just going full clear as they step forward. Tanaka takes a face full of lead. He goes down. That's 2 members already down and out for Fabled, and now Fabled has to retreat from this. You can see 2 members looking like, well, there's nothing we can do. Greg Shot and Supernova have to retreat away very quickly, while Microfry, taking a couple of shots very long distance, kind of harass them out. Meanwhile, Wildcard seems like they have a very similar idea, just flushing out everything that's going on. Lush has to retreat out of the complex, just laying down over here, hiding. He's got his vehicle next to him, but no chance to move anytime soon.
No, as we see... I'm not going to say it. I was going to say it, but I'm not going to say it. I know Lost HD will watch this back and you'll know Supernova here with M249. Drassel taking a peek on the door. Going to catch a little bit. But Exodus looking to clean this one up here.
Yeah, they're just gung-ho after this right now. They're like, we saw where the other 2 went. We know we can take this. We know we have the numbers advantage. So they're starting to creep in through this. Microfry does go down. It's going to be a third-party shot coming out from Jay all day. Molotov up in front of Supernova trying to hold the line. And by God, he has a beautiful weapon to defend this position. If anybody from Exodus walks through this, it's going to go bad for him very quickly.
Yeah, actually, Greg's going to find Pat on the outside. Supernova still posted up here. Exodus now losing 2 in this clearance, so I mean, it looks like Drassel and Taylor J are just going to opt to bail out here. So Fabled actually standing their ground, even though they lost 2 initially to Exodus, and they're going to have to tuck their tails between their legs and get out of here, Matrim.
Fabled needs to make sure that they go and think elusive later, because by God, they did a lot of work to stop that push coming out. Exodus was feeling the rhythm of the game at that moment, thought that they could take care of that. Third party got the opening knock onto them, and they had to slam on the brakes super quick. So, with this, Exodus does have themselves a pretty decent spot inside the circle, pretty close towards center. Meanwhile, T-Sock back over towards Fabled is going to go ahead and do a little bit of looting and get away from this position, as we are pretty far south right now. Elusive is along those hills that are pretty much on the coastline in the southern part of Miramar, as Keenan does finally spot out Lush and flushes him out. The Raid Squad Beast managed to find himself a nice little place to hide for the time being. But really, most of our teams have already kind of held down the points that they want to hold down. So for the next 20 seconds or so, it's going to be information gathering, long-range shots. The only team that's not inside the safe zone as of yet is going to be Zenith. Now, on the outside of Los Leones, though, looks like Oath, they have an idea that maybe they want to take a couple of shots back over towards shoot to kill, but not wanting to overextend for it just too much yet.
No, and going to see this next circle pop, see our fate, and actually that's one of the better ones we'd like to see out there. Maybe just coming a bit further north than a lot of teams are expecting. You can see a lot of teams stacking down to the south side. They're going to have to make some moves north, but seems like Hard Shifts, Liberate, and Radiance actually over in the Church of Lost HD, as Poro likes to call it, and have themselves a favourable circle too. It's going to be interesting to see actually how many teams opt to stay in, Oath being one of them. Talking about teams opting to stay inside Los Leones here, maybe taking the high ground position to put some pressure around. SDK being one of them, Matt.
Well, I've just got a whole bunch of random noise going on. If you can hear fireworks going off in the background, that's just how my neighborhood is sometimes. Sonics do hear T8 making the rotation through, but not taking any shots back over towards Tactical 8 just yet, as they were not in a position to catch him off of that approach. So, with the circle popping the way that it has, it's really just back over towards center, getting rid of the water. But Sonics finally do manage to spot out Steezy as making the approach up that hillside. Shoot him out of the Murado, and his body goes rolling down the hills. Good shots coming out from Sonics, picking up another kill. Every point right now is extremely valuable, given their position. This now puts them 1 point back behind Oath.
Yeah, as we see Wildcard making the option to actually wrap round. It's sorry, not Wildcard, Zenith. Sorry, I see Kickstart's name and I still say Wildcard sometimes. It's even though there's a logo up on the stream.
Welcome
But,
to years of that. That's what my brain happens all the
dude,
time. I'm like,
do you know what? Do you know what? Kickstart's one of the ones that always sticks with me. I always want to say Wildcard, and I think that's the first time I've actually slipped up. But it's always in my head. I'm like, oh, it's Wildcard. It's a red logo. He's got a red name.
I swear, it's just it always ends up happening, especially with the amount of roster swaps that we see. See that right now, Elusive still holding down their point. They are pretty far back down towards the south. They do have Sonics that's going to be back over towards the west. They do have a little bit of harassment that they might be thinking about throwing Fabled's direction. Sonics still on the hunt after T8 right now. Not going to be too aggressive into it, as nice defense does come up from T8 as they take a couple of shots and say, okay, that's a little bit too much. They're going to go ahead and move two of their members away. Now Grizzly going to realize, okay, I'm safe. He's going to hop away as well, as Sonics not wanting to be too aggressive onto this just quite yet. T8 making their rotation back over. Going to go ahead and firmly defend up. With the circles being fairly friendly to everybody, everybody's pretty much inside the safe zone at this point. It's just a matter of moving those extra couple of meters if you think that it's safe, trying to get a little extra carving of position so that way you can kind of set up a point, see if maybe you can get something out of it. Sonics are pretty far back down towards the south, really only have T8 that's up in front of them. They do have a couple of different ridges and hills that they can play back over towards the west if they do so choose to make a move that direction.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, I'm not sure if ATC really, I mean, they don't really have a play out of here, but they need to be a bit more decisive if they want to make a play down off the crate. So you can see Nox getting traded back and forth. 303 in the meantime. I think Voxic's going to opt to just give this up. Wildcard got themselves a fairly decent position, but, I mean, at this point, again, we talked about it earlier, Matt. For me, you don't want to risk anything, right? If you're going to play for the win in a series like this, you don't want to be sending it early and desperately hunting kills. But I talked about it earlier in the game, and I obviously don't want to talk about Erangel too much, but they didn't start putting kills on the board until Phase 4, and then they kind of exploded and ended the game with 12 in total, obviously wiping SDK in the end zone. Do you think... I mean, do you think at this point now, like the position they're in, they're not going to find much, right? Again, nobody's really going to crash him. It's easy to scout down there. Do they just slow play this out?
I don't know. With 57 still alive, the slow play option always feels ridiculously dangerous. Also, to everybody that's just like, this is a very slow game. Well, don't worry. Here in a second, it's just going to get a little bit more compacted. This next circle is going to be where everybody can maybe sneak their way in. You can see the blue zone's going to be not too long inside of this one, so everybody's going to try to find their path. Elusive taking a little bit of damage from Exodus, but they found themselves a dip. Next circle cannot support 57 players, and it's going to have to be run and gun from there, and there are going to be fights happening all across this map. Do note the positioning that we're looking at right now, though, as Elusive is looking back over towards Exodus, but Fabled also playing along the same path. This could very quickly turn into a three-way fight, depending on how this goes, as Exodus doesn't have the firmest of cover. I mean, they've got themselves some buildings to work with, but let's not call it prime real estate by any means. As you can see, there are a lot of different windows and angles that can be taken down. Elusive got the smoke down. They got the knock. So now it's just time to go for the play. Going for the res onto this is going to be Exodus, and they have to be very, very careful onto it. Drassel's by himself right now. Walks around the corner, and Exodus instantly gets dropped. They're going to go down in 16th. Elusive's now finding themselves in a very difficult spot, trying to get away from everything that's going on at range. You see Fable's creeping up back behind this. Greg Shot's got himself an angle back over towards Fizzle, who's already gone down, but it's quickly going to spot out N8, who's looking back over towards everything going on towards those shacks. Supernova has gone down, but a little bit of vengeance potentially due. Takes some shots, reveals his position, and Nate has an idea on what's going on. Goes for the peek. It's a quick exchange back over. Gets the down, but instantly gets dropped with a little bit of support. And that should be a res coming through, as I believe the smokes should be able to pop off in here and keep him alive.
And, I mean, great take by Elusive there. Obviously, the third party from Liberate was a factor. We did see a knock coming in. T-Sock did fall on the way in. Oh, hello. We've got Tactical 8 and Hearts just sharing the apartments down in the valley here. This is a really ugly place to get stuck down with another team, but Also, actually a terrible place to take a team fight. These apartments can be so awkward. It looks like Hardship's going to have to settle for sharing. But, I mean, Tactical actually stacked up right now. And actually, it looks like Beams is trying to get aggressive onto Maluk's building. I don't know if he's going to opt to push in here. Maluk's obviously got the audio cue. You can see him waiting for the vault inside the window.
Oh,
no.
Comes.
Oh,
Beams.
no.
I don't know if he knows. Going to run right through.
Oh,
There's
no,
the shot.
Maluk.
They reveal each other, and it's a quick escape by both accounts. Beam is bloodthirsty, though. He's on the hunt for what's going on. Sonic still making their move. You can see they're over here next to Illusion. They've got to be very careful. Zenith is also holding down a position point pretty close to them. 3 seconds before the circle pops. So whenever you're having to commit to fights at this stage, you have to think, I might not have to stay here, and that's exactly what's going to happen for Sonics. They know that they need to disengage very quickly as Zenith is just running up right back behind them. So they have to end this fight very, very quickly. As you can see, it is a very long spread. 2 members playing back down where Zenith is at. Another one really far ahead of this one. So Shrimzy's got to defend this point where Zenith has a high ground advantage. Meanwhile, Hardships finally do spot out Beams, but he doesn't even care. Quick shots coming out onto that. 2 members down for Hardships very quickly at the cost of Beams. Support now coming out from Lobes, thinking about maybe going for the run back over here towards this, but now have to be careful through all the throwables coming out from those windows. He has to just watch as his teammates go down, throwing out a ton of smokes, hoping maybe that provides enough cover to get back over towards Chubba, because Chubba has been putting in work for this team. T8 not wanting to get too aggressive on it just yet, instead thinking, hey, maybe we can go for a res back over next to Beams as well. So we're going to have to see how both of these teams are going to want to play this one out. I think that Lobes has decided it might be too risky, but oddly enough has the opportunity. Chubba is just using the smokes to crawl away from this. The res does pop off for Beams, but nobody from T8 has the angle. Ooh. Big shots coming up from Lobes, protect his teammate, allowing him to crawl that last little distance where the smokes weren't at. So now has a chance to get the res back up, as now yet again T8 has to respond to what's going on, trying to get their res back up, and that's going to allow Hardships to get back up to 2 members very quickly.
The little bait coming out from Chubba there, crawling, opened up an angle for Lobes. Again, saving his own life, really, crawling into the front door, as you said. Excellent use of the utility there. The third party from Radiance was coming in. I know, I think I saw Lost get the initial knock and then one of the steals onto the Hardships instead. But Comets, a team we were talking about, well, singing their praises last game, 4 up. They've made it into the side of Liberate's compound here. We do have Elusive down to the south, just encroaching on the hill, actually. I think all 3 teams now pretty much inside the compound, Matt. We could have a bit of a scrap coming out here at the top of the hill.
Well, we've got 2 teams inside of complexes. Then you got Liberate that's kind of
just
thinking
outside,
about taking a
actually,
complex. Yeah, both teams are kind of looking back over towards this, but Radiance does have a high ground point that they can play off of as well. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Elusive take the opening shots into what's going on, and then Comets, with the way that they've been playing, use that as an aggressive point. And oh, a fight around the dump truck. I don't see that too often at this stage of the game. Quick plays coming up from him. Got to be very careful as everybody's just running along this hillside, but Comets is just raining death and destruction back over here towards it. Liberate's in a lot of trouble. Elusive just has to run and hide and cower for just a second to try to get their meds back up. Lobby is off to the side of this, trying to see if maybe he can find an angle. If any approach comes up from the Comets, maybe he can put in a little bit of work, get some vengeance back for his teammates that have gone down. But it's going to be still continued harassment coming up from Radiance to pump the brakes onto Comets, because you could tell Comets wanted that fight, but just could not find an angle of approach.
No, unfortunately, they're not to convert more off. Obviously, Elusive making the push up. Unfortunately, Comets just couldn't close out any more out of that. But again, it's going to put, I guess some fear into Elusive now that they know the angles. Do you see Roth actually get flushed out by the native Profi? That's problematic for Zenith. You can see Kickstart and later kind of stuck out in the middle of the open here. Some utility coming out from Sonics, and actually looks like they're going to try and be the aggressor this fight. Shrimzy now, barrel in hand. Does put a Molotov out. Whether or not he's going to spot Kickstart on this wrap underneath here. I'm not sure actually if he's going to have LOS on this pushing up, but I mean, this fight needs to conclude quickly because you can see the circle posting here. There's not an awful lot for Sonics to move into, so
yeah, I mean, it's hills, it's terrain. You got to take this fight, or you got to move and decide that you're just going to go for a gatekeep instead. And it looks like Sonic has opted into a gatekeeping position. They know the fact that there's a team coming up back behind them. Meanwhile, way back down towards the south, there's going to be a lot of teams also making a similar push, maybe along the same path. Remember, we saw Radiance that was holding down that high ground. It is going to be inside the next safe zone, so they do have a lot of control that they can exert over what's going on inside of rotations in the circle. Sonic's just opting to be very slow, as you can see. Oath do have a little bit of a hill ledge, I don't even know what you would call it. It's just a couple of little dips, hills that they can kind of play to work with, and they're using that to kind of harass these teams that are trying to carve some type of approach inside the safe zone. Meanwhile, Illusion just has a different plan. Throw down smokes, send it, and hope nobody hits their shots, and it looks like this time it is going to pay off for them. The problem with it is they have to be careful, as it looks like 303 is going to take that hillside right up above them. Unfortunately, it's very hard to look back down towards it. Hardships through all their work are finally going to go down, and it's going to be T8. Now has to make the run back along Radiance's path, but I don't know if Los has an angle to see this. Even with all that high ground, Zenith still making the push back over next to 303, as this is about to be a mess. We've got 303 playing off of one side. Don't forget Illusion playing back down on the low side of this. Sonic sees what's going on, and all of these teams have the capability to third party on top of each other.
Yeah, Shrimzy finds later a distance there. Actually, Honey Badger's position could be critical in the situation. Voxic not landing anything onto Mystery. He's going to capitalize on that. Going to put him down. The flush guy. Actually, the steal coming out from Alo range as well. That's from way over to the north of here. Honey Badger finally coming in from his anchor position, but the third party from SDK put some damage onto him. Mystery out in the blue now. He's got to stick with first aid kit. Kickstart actually going to pick off Honey Badger by the Bronco. So now Zenith still with a fighting chance of getting in on this edge. Kickstart's going to shoot the dead body, a little bit toxic, but I'm not sure that was intentional. Mystery did manage to get off the tree here. Zenith kind of resetting from this, but now we see the position Comets have had to settle for. Oh no, we're back with Zenith now. You can see Landoon has to hit the prone in the open garage. Later going to try and come up and get a nade in here. This might be the end of Dune.
Oh,
there you go. Nicely placed nade from Later there. The second just for good measure, and Zenith will actually stabilize and get themselves a tiny little edge of the circle to play from.
We have to be careful because it looks like maybe Sonics might take a similar approach back behind them. Everybody right now should be thanking Comets, because Comets is just harassing Radiance that are trying to hold down that high ground point. And so Radiance can't really look around at everything that's going on. Whenever we were looking back towards that fight a second ago, remember it's shoot to kill that has a vision back over towards where Zenith is playing. With this new circle pop, I mean, there's two teams that have a little bit of territory to play, and then it's wide open fields. I mean, technically, Oath has a little bit of a hillside to play, but it is run and gun with 30 people alive. You're just going to have to fight your way through this one from this point forward. Sonic's holding the line, getting a lot of damage back over towards Mystery, but he's just fighting his way up that hillside. Mystery took a ton of damage, but it never stopped him, and that's going to be Sonic's going down off of a beautiful push coming out from him.
That's fantastic work there. And again, Sonics, I guess, identifying Zenith have been channeled into this area. They tried to be the aggressors of the fight, but Zenith absolutely taking the fight to them. And now SDK stuck out of that compound. Now you can see Alo's kind of moved into the circle, but that's one of those open shacks, so not the best spot to be in. Any trolls in chat still occupying the concrete and long building that we know is center circle. I mean, it's been a couple of weeks since we've seen them get some circle love, to be honest, Matt, but they haven't managed to put any kill points on the board just yet. It's one of those unfortunate circumstances we see. Just nothing really playing into their path, I guess. Now you can see the damage coming down from Zenith on the high ground. Actually, Masterlek might actually get down as a top dog. Nope, he's going to find cover. But SDK got some open ground to cover here, Matt, and I'm not sure if they're going to be able to do it on foot. There you go. Mystery's going to find Uncivil.
It's just Alo that's managed to make it in. So Zenith was taking some pot shots in the back of shoot to kills. They were making their approach. Still looking back towards people that are rotating back in towards those field areas. Not a lot of areas that can be played right now. Radiance moving forward after they finally contended with Comets to have a little bit of territory that they can work with. Really, the odd teams out right now are going to be Zenith and kind of Wildcard, depending on how that they want to play this. Zenith has all the pressure that's onto them right now. They have to figure out how they're wanting to deal with what's going on, and they've opted to instead rotate very far back down towards the south, giving Illusion in this little bit of a dip that they're playing a very wide berth, so that should allow them to play for much longer. It's just a question on how Zenith wants to play this, and by God, I think that McCoy is just going to narrowly miss any vision on what's going on. ATC finally getting themselves some kills. As you can see, they do have the vision, but haven't been able to have any of the fights happen right next to them, as everybody is just wanting to play passive and hide right next to their spots that they're playing at. Radiance back down towards the south. I don't know if they're aware that Zenith is just slow creeping back behind them. So Mystery's wanting to put in a little bit of work into this. Going to make the switch back over. Not going to take the shots just quite yet. Instead, just going to go ahead. I think that is he the one that picked up the level 3s out of that one and just left the sniper rifle? This stage of the game, that's no surprise.
Yeah, now we see Relo actually open up with a double headshot with the SLR, but Radiance now looking like they want to mount their 4-man push over to the top of this ridge here. Whether or not going to find a sight line onto Zenith, you can see Later's had the prone behind this watchtower. Little needle rolling past him there. I wonder what
There
that
it
was.
is.
McCoy actually going to find Mystery here. I think later should be safe for the time being. He's a bit further over, but now you can see him. He might actually just catch a head here. The nade comes over, and actually now the peak comes over from McCoy. Going to try and get some damage onto later, but not going to be able to convert it just yet. Mystery probably going to bleed out in this position. I don't think it's wise to go for the res. Wildcard absolutely destroying Oath over on the east side of this circle. Actually, Balefrost getting the flush from the grave onto Sharpshot. Sharpshot has been dying to either his own throwables or just like the most unfortunate throwables I've seen. The last few times we've seen him go down in the kill feed.
Oh, Radiance making their push back over towards Wildcard. Wildcard's trying to set the defense. We just saw them take
Look
a
how
fight.
active Radiants are. What?
I know, they're just running everywhere. They've got 6 kills right now. They're running across and using a road for cover. There's near on no cover to work with, but nobody can harass them based off of this angle. New circle has popped, and it's going to go back along that hillside. ATC in a very comfortable position. Los does go down. Good shots coming up from Pinta, but looks like Batty's trying to capitalize. Does get one of them down in exchange, but this is going to be right next to where the blue zone's going to be moving in. Jazz is not going to have time to do anything, and while Radiants were being aggressive, there was a lot of damage that came back their way. So with this, Batty Lowell's finding himself all by his lonesome. Not a lot that he can do out of this. Jazz is kind of running along as well, trying to see if maybe they can make a play along the smokes. Jazz is going for the more aggressive play, wanting to flush out these kills, pick up what he can, but waiting on the outside of it's going to be Batty Lowell, and it's just a bounce between smoke to smoke. Who's going to see who first? And it's going to be Jazz. Spots out one. Going to go ahead and move away from it, but finally taken down. Radiant still has 2 members that are down, but they're going to quickly go down to the blue, trying to crawl away from this. You can see it's going to be Waldo, but I don't know if McCoy's going to have time to opt into going for this. He's going to go for the smoke onto it. While this was going down, we also did see Shoot to Kill finally get spotted out, but Illusion is getting ready to make a play back over next to ATC as Icy Flex goes down. Everybody bouncing from rock piece and cover that they can. Free me, please. Trying to get some vision back over towards ATC.
Ranger found one there. Marcelek will go down inside the compound. That might give Ranger an opportunity to get up on here. You can see Aguila trying to find Free Me Please. The distance goes for the Scar Spray. We'll get the damage down, but won't actually get him down. Going to try and follow up with a nade. That should be good. Now ATC should have been able to reset here. Will that find? There you go. Fantastic nade from Aguila here. Now just need to deal with the last 2 members, and they are trying to stick the Reds outside the fence.
They got it.
They don't see him.
Whoa!
They don't see him here.
Big plays coming out. Ranger tries to defend
Oh
it
my
up.
God.
That's 2 members already down for ATC. Aguila has to be very careful off of this. Icy Flex did go down yet again. But while all of this is going on, Radiance hears it. They're using this moment to run right up back behind this. If McCoy decides to play this aggressive, the game is in his hands. But they don't want to overextend after what happened to him just a second ago. They're sitting on 9 kills. They have to have an idea that there's only 1 team left. But ATC had so much damage done to them, 2 members down, and Radiance just did not have the vision to work with. Marcelek now looking back over towards Radiance. There's going to be nice shots coming out from McCoy. Takes him down. ATC has gotten down several times at this point. They have to be very cautious. More damage going over towards them could be extremely hazardous, as there's not going to be a lot of loot to be found on anybody on Illusion because they were having so many pot shots coming from them, actually from ATC. So what can Radiance do from this point? They know that they can't run forward. They can't go for the play just quite yet, and they don't want to. They have a pretty good position for this next circle, pretty close towards center. It means ATC is going to have to come towards them. What angle is ATC going to use? Melon's trying to peek out, see if maybe he can get something out of it.
Please
Waldo.
get on the roof, Waldo. Please. I want to see Waldo get on the roof of the long building so bad.
McCoy having to defend all of this by himself up in the front of it means the fact that Waldo has an opportunity to work with. McCoy takes a lot of damage. He has the meds to work with, but you can see both members of Radiance very low on armor. They've got to be very careful. Their helmets are in the red as well. Marcelek might find himself with a nice angle. Depending on how that bounce goes down, doesn't make it all the way down the stairwell. Marcelek instead goes back around the other side of this. All pressure now over towards ATC. They have to make the move. They have to find some vulnerability in how Radiance is trying to defend this, but with this 1-1 split between the 2 of them, they're drawing a lot of attention between these 3 different members. It looks like Aguila, Melon are finally opting to make a little bit of a move. They're playing along the outside of the smokes. Marcelek trying to draw as much attention as he can. Get away from it! Don't go down to yourself like that. That would be terrible at this stage. Aguila now moving forward finally does manage to get a little bit of a foothold right here at the doorstep doorstep of Radiance's building. Instead, they're opting to play this, make it aggressive. 2 members right along the outside of it, trying to juke around. Waldo comes up with some support. Nice plays coming up. Now there's only 1 member of ATC left. He's trying to figure out exactly where Radiance has repositioned to. Radiance has been putting in a ton of work in this game, trying to make a round side of it. Agila gets one of them, but cannot get the second one. Radiance picks up a 12-kill victory.
That was an absolute fantastic reposition there from McCoy. Again, threw down the bait, got the knockout of the top floor window there, then vaulted out onto the side that Waldo could protect him from. And again, Waldo actually picking up the second knock. That was actually insane team play coming out from McCoy and Waldo in the end game.
And I mean, they had to make so many aggressive pushes inside that. Waldo, big game coming up from him. 5 kills back behind that. McCoy walking away with 4. But let's not forget about ATC. They weren't sitting on a lot of kills for a long time. But then Agila manages to pick up 5. Melon manages to get 3. Illusion didn't manage to get any kills while they did get 3rd. But that was because they were having to cower in the shade of the hill and all of the bullets and grenades that were coming their way. They never got a chance to peek.
No, it wasn't. And again, we talked about it. I mean, I mentioned ATC probably weren't going to see too much traffic until the end game, but Illusion was another perfect example of that. They sent it there early, and again, it's just, unless you opt to fight out of there before you have to move, you're not going to see anything. Nobody rotates past that come phase 4.
Well, another thing to note, we didn't get a chance to see it, but Alo did manage to survive for his team for quite a while, buying a 4th place position and 2 kills for his team. That is very important, given the fact that they took a lot of casualties very early into that game. But let's not forget about Wildcard. 1 position back behind them. Jazza, 4 kills. Pentawolf, 3 kills. And Keenan, 1 kill. This is starting to get really close for that number 1 spot.
It is, yeah. And again, we'll take a look at the overall leaderboards over on the desk after this. But I can't wait to see just how close it is, because I think we've got 4 teams in the mix now, and if we were talking about the start of the day, it didn't look that way with STK's lead.
Yeah, they had every opportunity into it. They've managed to scrap together a couple of points here towards the end of it, but they had a very large lead, and it's slowly and steadily being eaten up back behind them, most notably by big performances coming out from Wildcard.
Zenith as well. Zenith are closing the ground. And that's a scary prospect to have 2 teams chasing you, let alone just the one that's slowly picking up points. To have 2 that are putting up the points they are game on game. And again, I said it earlier, there's no way STK look back on this and think that, you know, there's not something they could have done differently with how these Miramar games have gone.
Yeah. One other thing to note is we've seen a lot of mix-up towards those middle-of-the-pack spots. We mentioned several times, a couple of big games could be huge for some of these teams. Well, Radiance just got a big one. And I know we got Porosaurus, Cammy D, and Toffees that want to break down everything inside that last round and lead us through the leaderboard. You guys, take it away.
Thank you very much to Matrim and Toffees for bringing us home these last 2 games. Guys, we were talking about it. We were talking about how close this thing was going to get and how important it was for teams to start stepping up into this final game. And by God, we have a number of teams that started stepping up there, Toffees.
Absolutely. And I think that Hypox said it best on that cast with Matchroom when he pointed out the way that Radiance played the end of that match. The way that they played out of that building. Have you ever seen you remember those kids' toys, like the little collapsible, expandable, like plastic things?
Oh, yeah.
Sure. It felt like that. They were doing this thing where they would like sort of flex out and get a little bit of space, get some information, take some shots, and they'd collapse and play as a team, and they kind of flex out. And they were doing this good job of maintaining their space. And that final fight, the way that he jumped out the window with cover, and then they were able to sort of get back together while the guys from Any Trolls were sort of spreading out and just catching them in the off position every time was really nice. Like Radiance played that so freaking well.
Yeah, they definitely made me nervous a few times, and we were laughing about this, Cameron. I don't know what was going on with that.
I still don't know what was happening here.
Dumps free.
It's good that we.
Dumps free.
It's good that we start here on the highlights, though, because this is basically when the game started, when the circle centered up away from Chumacera and forced all the teams to push from the high ground to the low ground, and you just saw how much chaos it started. Zenith got a good number of points, but really it was Wildcard sort of holding the line here against the weird push by Oath, and then Radiance tried to follow up, but they needed to open it up much more strongly than they did, Radiance, because Wildcard's going to shoot back at you very, very strong. Yes, they ended up losing that fight, but Radiance wounded themselves so much that we weren't terribly confident that they would even have the ability to win the game after that point.
Yeah, on that fight when they lost HD, I thought they were in trouble. McCoy holding that off position was really, really clean. Being able to get Waldo back up and running for this end fight was the major difference, right? Waldo is... We're starting to really see him shine, Poro. Like, we're starting to see him get these numbers and get recognition. But even in the MPL, he was an unsung hero, in my opinion. I mean, if you listen to Godspeed talk, he talks about Little Waldini and how he's always in the right spot at the right time. I think that this is key to their victory, is that you got to have Waldo there. He finds the pocket, he finds the timing, and while he's not necessarily a sung hero within the scene, he's very good at just playing his game and fitting in wherever he's needed. And I respect that sort of Swiss Army knife style of play.
Well, got to give a shout out as well to ATC. Finally, we see them up there in the top 5, and it was very, very close there, Cam, towards the end. I mean, it came down to a 1v2, and it was close.
Yeah, I will say, though, I feel like once ATC sort of eliminated Illusion, they didn't really know exactly how to approach the buildings that Radiance were in. Even with that man advantage, you would think it would have been a little closer. Once they got themselves figured out where exactly Radiance were and they used a couple of grenades, you could see they were able to focus in on it. It just took them a bit too long to fully collect themselves, but still, 8 kill points for them. Second place, 14 points. It's very much needed for one of the few teams that are heading towards the bottom of the overall leaderboard.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, they've only had this. I think this makes their 4th game, maybe 5th game, where they got to finish in the top 5. So I do think part of that was just a symptom of we haven't done this a lot. So, like what happens now when it's down to 2?
Yeah.
That said, though, I think they did the best they could. They picked up a very good kill count with 8, and experience creates strength, right? So like the more that they get that top 3, it's not often, but they're getting the training against the best, and they're only going to get better from here. Aguila had a great game.
Absolutely, and you see Radiance as well up in that top 3, but you look at number 4 there. That's another player from Wildcard, and that is a team that has been having a phenomenal day here today. We'll have to see if it was enough at the end to surpass Shoot to Kill, but we know that they're going to be real close there, Cam.
Yeah. They've had, I think, the best day out of anyone so far, just going off of my random eye test. And Pentalo and Jazza both in full damage, so that's a double for them here.
I mean, Jazz it's a European player that got picked up. I thought he'd fit right in, and he's kind of been singing the blues lately. He hasn't been fitting in with the team. He doesn't seem like he's had a huge impact. But today, I think he's hitting all the right keys. Like, he's been on point. With the exception of that Bale flick, he has been in the right spot most of these games.
And that was on Bale, not like against him necessarily.
Here's your overall leaderboard. Shoot to Kill still holds on to the lead, but only by 5 points. Wildcard has made a push, and they find themselves in second. Zenith just 15 points behind them. And then Hardships, Fabled, Oath, Radiance, Sonics, all within striking distance. Only maybe a game or two, a good 2 games away from really making a run there at Shoot to Kill. This is probably the closest leaderboard we've seen going into a final day in North America here in a while, it feels like, Toffees.
It is, and it's because of some brute force play by teams like Wildcard. I mean, 303 started today in 7th and has taken it on the chin. Fabled has slipped down to 5th, and they're still getting some numbers, but the fact that, like, Wildcard, the Hardships were in the mix but not talked about, they came out so aggressive today. Oath as well, that now I've never seen this many teams in the mix.
Roth getting surpassed by his own teammate. It be your own friends that do it to you, Roth. Kickstart takes over that number 1 spot with 26, but Purdy Cardi still holding strong. We see Pentalo making his way into the top 5 now. Fabled still holding strong with Supernova there in that 5th spot. Cameron, are we worried about STK? Is this going to be STK throwing it again in the last weekend?
I am not going to call it a throw just yet, because they have actually done a good job the second half of the day of sort of making the best out of a rough situation, but they need to go back to their A game and have more than just one good, solid game, even though it is a win tomorrow. And they used to have 3 people in the top damage, 3 people in top kills. Now it's 1 each. That is, I don't care that they're in first place. That is a sign of how this day has gone for them.
You got to keep in mind for these damage and knocks and all these different statistical categories, these are some money riding on these, right, Toffee? Since we have some bounties that will have to be assigned here towards the end there, as we see Luke sitting on the top of the total assist board, Alo right behind him. But I don't know. I guess I'll pose the same question to you. Do you think that this is STK falling into old habits?
Like, I love the STK guys. I love their fan base. I love their coaching system. I think that they do struggle a little bit from having to be online for this whole thing. But you see, when you look at the knocks and the kills, they have managed to show more consistency than any other team. And I will say this, STK generally has an off day. Today was their off day. I expect that they've got some of the best mental training in the league, if not the world, in my opinion. And they go home tonight. I think they figure some crap out. I think they meet with Gunner and have a good talk. And they come back tomorrow and they play their game. They still have a lead. I don't always feel like I see them going into the final day ahead. So hopefully they use that headspace to keep themselves there.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think that I think you're basically, I feel like you're going to know a lot about how and where STK is going to finish this thing after game one. It just kind of feels like they are very driven by their performance, and they kind of stay the same throughout the whole day based on how they do in the first game there. As we check in on our total headshots there, Waldini in first place with 9. Pat Caps, Alo, Pentalol, and Roth rounding out that top 5. As we see the headshots, man, we haven't, I guess, is that, what do you think? Is that low, Cam?
For
not 15
necessarily.
games?
No, I don't think so, because I believe these aren't like headshots landed. I think these are like headshot kills that were
Resulting in a
finished
kill.
with a headshot.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so because obviously I'm expecting more headshots that then get revived, because you probably get a knock with a headshot at range. I don't know, but it's interesting to see which players have been getting a lot of the kills with headshots compared to body shots, I guess.
Well, it's also fun to see, like, Waldini's up on top, which is kind of a magic trick to me, because he's not the guy that we see running around with a bolty, taking these long-range engagements. He's in the thick of things. And that tells me, I think, what Waldo does that you see out of, say, in my opinion, out of some of the Korean players more than the Western players traditionally, is he looks for those headshots during the spray downs. He's interested in sort of getting the fast knocks. And I think that's why we've been seeing him thrive so much. He's adopted this willingness to look for the more difficult kill, if that makes sense.
I mean, at this point, we're seeing Maluk run around with a bolt. I don't know what to
That's
expect
fair.
about anything. I mean,
I've hit him, too.
Yeah. I mean, he popped that. Look, we're fully in the midst of barrel grounds. I think has been the real take home as far as the meta is concerned. And Molotov has also been a huge player. But look, we've got 5 games left, 3 on Miramar. If you look at the overall, wild card did really well in our 2 games here on Miramar. They are now in second place overall. Do you think that wild card can come in tomorrow and really just kind of take control, or do you think it'll be a team that we're not even expecting? I mean, we saw Oath come in today and win 2 back-to-back and then just kind of disappear off the face of the earth. Is there another team that has that in them for tomorrow? Toffees, what do you think?
I mean, the nature of PUBG is, yes, at any given time, based on circles and drops, it can happen. Wildcard has had this weird thing where they've lived up to their name. One of the few teams that was signed that then said, yes, we will be the wild card. Because at any given time, like any given Sunday, they can come out and do it. And we've seen teams like FaZe in the past come out on a Sunday and drop 3 or 4 wins because they've just are feeling it, right? So I never write out teams, except maybe Tactical Aid at this situation and some others, that there's just not a lot of hope for them going forward. But yes, there are a couple of teams. I think Fabled is one that's dropped pretty far down, but they proved to us last weekend that they've got the potential to come out and drop some bangers of a match. So, yeah, I think there's a couple of teams out there that can do this.
Cameron, is it going to be one of the top 3 or somebody else sitting at the top of the leaderboard?
With the lead that both SDK and Wildcard have, I don't see a reality that both teams fail to show up tomorrow. If one of them doesn't win, the other one will.
Okay.
Because
you can say that in PUBG because there's 16 teams. That'd be funny if it was something else.
Yeah. Shoot to kill. Despite not having as good of a day as they had last week, they are still in first place, and I know that I gave them a little bit of grief for them sliding off of the kill and assist and those leaderboards, at the end of the day, they do still have a 20-point lead over third place. And a lot of that comes from the ability to play placements, which is a bit new to them. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, look, hey, at this point, anything really is on the table when it comes to shoot to kills performance. I mean, they're holding, but as you said, at the end of the day, they're still holding a 20-point lead on to third, right? And Wildcard did a nice little run here. But let's take a quick look at the overview before we close things out for the day, so you can know what to expect going forward here. You know that we're coming back tomorrow with our final game, our final 5 games of the PCS1 North America Grand Finals, but you can also check on that Asia PCS1 Grand Finals going on probably about maybe, let's see, 5 hours, 6 hours from now, roughly. They'll get things kicked off, and then you can also tune in on Saturday and Sunday to see how APAC, Asia, and Europe end their first seasons of PCS, as all these Grand Finals are going, and all of them are very, very close and have a lot of tight races going on here in the last weekend. But any parting thoughts before we get out of here, Toffees?
I think STK and Zenith need to put on their big boy pants and show up tomorrow. Neither of them broke 25 points today. I think it was like 22 and 24. They are still managing to hold pole positions, but it's not going to be enough. If a wild card's going to come out and put up, I think it was like almost a 70-point day today, like, then there's no chance that STK and Zenith win this thing if they play the way that they do tomorrow. So it's big boy pants time. Wildcard, don't let off the throttle, keep on pushing, but STK and Zenith, today's not acceptable. Bounce back.
Cameron, you got any pep talk to give any of these particular teams?
Shit.
I know you're known for your pep talk.
Don't be bad.
Really.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing.
Don't be bad.
Don't be bad. It's okay. So seriously, it's what I tell myself when I'm feeling down in the dumps, and is what I learned in college when a mentor told me. This is the best phrase ever. Let's see if I can't deliver it correctly. Don't suck, be better.
Your
Deep
mentors are
words.
Inspiring.
Deep words.
Yeah.
Inspiring thoughts, and a fantastic closing out there by Cameron. But guys, that is going to do it for us today. We have 5 games remaining tomorrow, and things are tighter than ever. Make sure you come back and see how this thing ends up, because I don't know. I have no idea. But we'll see you here right now, bright and early tomorrow. Bye, guys.